With the mic. Turn that on. You can just pass it around and introduce everybody real quick while we have a moment.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paula Adams. I'm with Coldwell Banker Hyde Park. I've been a realtor with Coldwell Banker for 23 years. I've been in real estate for 33 years. I used to handle the telephone company's properties. I'm also used to be a contractor in rehab houses and the office manager for Franco and Giles. That should be enough.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Mike Allen with Crown Mortgage Company. Been in the business 48 years.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, and I'm Dan Conwell. I'm with Mike. I've been at Crown for the last 16 years now.
Okay. Nice meeting you guys.
Wayne Young. I've been in home repair and remodeling for at least 30 years. Nice to meet you all.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Daniels from Coldwell Banker Hyde Park. I've been in the business for 27 years. I was out for 10, just came back, and I'm enjoying the atmosphere.
That's it.
Okay, I guess I'll walk right in on that. My name is Dominique Norman, designated managing broker of All House Realty, broker owner. I've been in real estate 23 years.
My name's Javina Lyles. I'm with Macaulay Real Estate, and I'm fairly new to real estate. I've only been here in the last couple of years.
We're going to straighten that out.
My name is Gloria Hyde. I also am a broker with McCulley, and we're just here for the education. I'm fairly new as well.
Okay. Did you guys bring an apple for the teacher? Okay. All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Twine. I'm an agent with Worth Clark Realty, and I've been doing this since 2003, so here to seek knowledge. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to give you something. So let's get into, are you going to introduce yourself?
I'm Earl Bailey. I'm with Guaranteed Rate. I've been a loan officer for about 20 years, the last 5 with Guaranteed Rate. I've probably done at least 100 203K loans, so I think I know the good, the bad, and the ugly, and here to help, Dan, supplement his knowledge with a little practical knowledge that might help.
Right. And just a little side note, Earl wasn't the person I did my first 203K with, but he was my second. And we had a little sticky case, and we got it off the ground, and we've been doing them together ever since. He talks back, though, so I just want to let y'all know that. Me and Melanie have to constantly straighten him out. A little bit about me. My name is Dan Morgan. I'm a 203K HUD consultant for the Midwest region. Also a home inspector. I'm a general contractor, journeyman carpenter, and dad and granddad. I believe in the 203K product. This home you see here was built in 1890 something. And what I wanted to do when I was in class, just daydreaming, I always wanted to rehab this building. It was with me, my son, and Mr. Young and Charles Stewart. On occasion, we did rehab this property, but not to this magnitude. So what I wanted to do was leave the front of the house with its architectural integrity, the way the architect originally wanted the house to look. But this little area here, I tore the roof off and added a 3rd floor, and I moved the walls back 10 feet. My son's house is a little bit different. It's somewhere around here. His house is, you'll see that during our presentation, but his house is going to be the reverse of my house. We're moving his walls out 17 feet and adding another floor. He just had a new baby a couple years ago, so we want those kids to be comfortable. So it's a 203K. He lives right around the corner from me, so we're investing in South Shore, and we're trying to be a pillar of the community as a result to rehabilitation of homes to let folks see what they can do with the product. And so without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Or did you want to say something before I got
No,
started?
we can just get started, and I'll interject as we go along to to supplement some things that Dan is saying. I'll just let Dan get to it.
Right. So Earl is a great interjector, and we're going to let him do all the interjection that he wants now. So again, we're talking about the FHA 203K loan product, and I'm just going to go on down the line here. Now, I want you guys can jump in with questions if you have them. If you don't understand anything, raise your hand. I'll go over it with you, and then we'll kind of go from there. The 203B, anybody, when you hear about FHA financing, it's a 203B product. Okay, I'm getting my house financed FHA. It's a 203B product. It's a basic mortgage loan, principal residence. 203K permits buyers to finance, purchase, and renovate a principal residence all at one time. And FHA loans are funded by the lending institutions such as the mortgage company, bank, guaranteed rate, and that sort of thing. And you can provide mortgage insurance for the person purchasing or refinance the principal residence. Let me just talk a little bit about the basic products here, the loan types. The 203K, the minimum rehab is $5,000 by FHA maximum loan standards, and then the 203K streamline is financed up to $35,000. Let me break that down, what that really means to you. So say, for instance, if you're doing a streamline and you just want to freshen up the kitchen, freshen up a bathroom, the 203K streamline is something that we want to introduce to folk to get those sort of things done. When you don't have any structural issues, things of that nature, I would definitely suggest doing a 203K streamline. That $35,000 loan typically funds at $30,000. So the gross amount would be $35,000, but your working amount is going to be about $30,000. And so you got to let your client understand that. And then it's like, well, I thought I had $35,000. You got bank fees. So the mortgage folks can attest to that sort of thing.
You also have a set-aside fee, which is your contingency, which will be 10 to 15% of the loan amount, and they put that to the side in case they open up a wall and something goes wrong or just something unforeseen happens. All FHA 203K loans include a little extra money just in case something goes wrong. You'll be able to have money for that. And in case everything goes just right, in some instances, if you got a couple other things you had your eye on but couldn't get it done, there's a possibility you're able to use some of that extra contingency money to do a couple of other things. Or if you don't use it, it goes back to reduce your principal and interest on your loan.
Right. But it doesn't change your mortgage amounts. Whatever loan you close with, that's the amount that you wind up with. Now, just a little word of caution. Go ahead. It's on top of that. So it's okay. $35,000 is your loan. Okay, so $35,000 is your loan. That loan for $35,000 is going to fund net dollars at about $30,000, there or about. And then you have a 10% contingency along with those $30,000.
So if you got 30 plus a contingency, that's 33, and then there's lender's charge, what's called a supplemental origination fee, and then there might be one or two other things, but by the time you get it, somewhere between $29,500 and $30,000 will get you a total of 35.
Exactly. And let me just give you a word of caution for folks who's getting ready to do a 203K. The contractors, the first thing he's after is your contingency. I'm just going to let you know that. Okay, whatever we're working on, okay, we got a problem, let's dig into that contingency first. No. I tell contractors all the time, especially when I'm the consultant on the job, we're going to stand down on that contingency money. Because when you really find something that you need that for, there's nothing there. So, and then the contractor can prey on somebody's, oh, geez, I want this to look good, so on and so forth. We just want to frown on that. Let me just go a little bit further, then I'm going to give you a talking point. So there's a low down payment of 3.5 of the loan amount, purchase plus repair escrow, purchase home requiring repairs or modernization. Now, if you're doing a regular FHA financing, you can't close on that loan with a bad roof. You can't close on that loan with flaking paint. You can't close on that loan with egregious items outside of minimum property standards that HUD dictates that we follow. However, that's a regular FHA financing, but the 203K allows for you to close with those egregious items going on in your home, and then your prospective home, and then we'll renovate those after the closing. So we just want to make sure everybody knows pretty much how that goes. The purchase home requiring repair or modernization, streamline, it starts at $5,000 up to $35,000, and the 203K standard $5,000 minimum, and then it's based on the prevailing factors for a single family, 2-flat, 3-flat, 4-unit building per that zip code, per that area, per HUD guidelines. The interest deduction and it helps with interest deduction and revitalizing communities. Now, I have a little quick issue with some of this stuff. Roseland is a perfect opportunity for revitalizing the community. However, you run into situations that it won't pencil out. And what do I mean by that? It's beautiful gray stones in the area. Those houses are appraising very, very low. So when you want to go on Roseland and start a rehab project, with the renovation budgets don't change. So say, for instance, you got a 2-flat, 2,200 square feet in Bronzeville. You got the same thing in Roseland, and somebody gave you a scope of work with $400,000 worth of renovations in Bronzeville. Chances are that project is going to pencil out, but that same exact square footage in Roseland is not, because of appraisals. Now, if they're rehabbing the whole block, then we can permit the appraiser to go outside of that 1-mile radius, because we're revitalizing the whole block, and we can give instances where we'll need a special appraisal. Everybody follow me on that? So we got to be very, very mindful of that when we're trying to revitalize communities. I ran into the same situation on my house. When I was doing my 203K, my appraisal was kind of minimized because I was near a railroad. But it wasn't an industrial railroad, it's a metro electric line. So we got to be mindful of those things. And then I kind of challenged the appraiser to revisit that, and I picked up another $15,000. Everything you pick up it goes into your renovation budget. It really, really does. So the FHA 203K loan borrower qualifications. Owner occupied. Don't be telling me I'm going to flip this property and I'm moving out. You're going to jail. So you don't want to be doing that. It's owner occupied. It's got to be your primary residence, and it's got to be attached and detached single family residence, 1 to 4 units. And Earl, you want to jump in?
My personal definition, I think one that most people follow, is that owner occupied, I think the definition most people follow is that you intend on living there and you do live there for at least a year. So if you get the property, you renovate it, live in it for at least a year, and then something else changes in your life, you could do something differently. But if you're going to get an FHA 203K loan, plan on that being your principal residence for at least 1 year.
Now, say for instance you financed. I'm getting in the woods here. You bought this house and it's got a kind of small footprint. You bought that house. You lived there for a year. You renovated. What if you want to get another FHA loan and go do another house? Well, I'll say if you're moving into a larger property, it'll be a FHA, no problem. But if you're moving into a smaller footprint, I think there's going to be a little issues. Earl, you want to touch on that?
Okay, so in general, you're only allowed to have one FHA loan at a time. You can get that property you originally got, refinance out of it, and you're good to go with another FHA loan. There are limited instances where you can get more than one FHA loan. The thing that usually makes a lot of it not work is that, number one, is the general rule is that if you're getting another FHA property, you have to be moving at least 100 miles from your current property. So that kills a lot of being able to get more than one FHA property. Now, if you're getting a bigger property because your family size increased, and you have to be really able to prove it, like you're in a 2-bedroom house, now you got 4 kids. Okay, that's a reason to get another FHA loan. The other thing that you have to be aware, you have to get an appraisal, and you have to have at least 25% equity in your in your current residence, and more than likely you have to qualify with both mortgages to do that.
Why do they have these sort of things in place? They want to stop flipping. They want to stop folks trying to circumvent the system, or I'm a quasi-investor using 203K. So just be mindful of those sort of things. The Section 203K program is the primary program for acquisition. That means you buying a house, rehabilitation and or repairs of a single family property. It's an important tool for the community, the neighborhood revitalization, and expanding home ownership opportunities. Now, here's another drawback for a 203K. And I'm not just giving you everything's all sugar-coated. One of the drawbacks for 203Ks, you can't get any home down payment. You can't get any down payment assistance to accompany your 203K. However, the city has programs, what's that, MMRP?
Right, so something like an MMRP, something that's considered a quote-unquote standalone down payment program where you can get a regular mortgage and additional funding. Those type of programs usually work with a 203K. But if you're doing something like an EIDL loan, which is a specific loan in itself, that can't be combined because FHA 203K is one type of loan and an EIDL loan is a separate type of loan. So if you can keep your regular 203K loan and the down payment assistance goes behind that as a standalone, then it's a good chance that can be used with the 203K loan.
Everybody with me on that? So city employees, cop, ambulance, fire department, 203K works great for those when the city is getting involved in your purchase. So I'm a big fan of that. Let's go. So how is it different? Traditional mortgage financing plans provide only permanent financing, 203B. The traditional mortgage requires improvements, rehabilitations to be finished before permanent financing. What that means to all of us, that means we don't want the house to have peeling paint on the windows, bad roofs, negative slopes on the sidewalks, so on and so forth. They want the house ready to be occupied. The interim financing, acquisition, and construction loans involved, those are hard money loans. Does anybody outside of these mortgage gentlemen here know what a hard money loan is? Raise your hand. Okay, stand up for all the folks that raise their hand. I'm finna give you guys a quick quiz. Y'all don't want to be quizzed? We may give you a prize at the end of this segment. What is a hard money loan? Anybody can jump right in there. And where did the name come from? Does anybody know that? High interest rate loan from Faith. Anybody else got something? Close. Not close.
It's not permanent, and you got to get out of it.
Here's where the hard money loan comes from. When you knock on a house, is it hard? That's where it comes from. We gonna come get your house. We can knock on the walls, and it's hard. Then that's your collateral. We coming to get that when you don't do what you're supposed to do. That's ours now. And so they make sure you have a lot of skin in the game. A hard money loan is a collateralized loan. When it comes due amortization, we want your house if you ain't finished. Now, as a HUD consultant and a home inspector, guess what I run into all the time? Folks who got a hard money loan doing construction and they new at it. Damn, I ain't gonna pull no permits. I'm gonna knock all of these walls out. I'm gonna do all this. And I'm just sitting there waiting for the orange sticker to come. The orange sticker man in the truck, he's coming and he's gonna put you a nice little sticker on your front door for you not doing what you're supposed to do. And here's the danger of this. When you're doing a renovation, you wanna make sure you follow all oversight. Because guess what? If this hard money guy, he got this loan, he's doing all this, he done added 700 bathrooms and 600 bedrooms, guess what? And he ain't got no permit. So that house went from 4 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms, from 1 bath to 3 baths. When you get that house appraised, it's still a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. Anybody know why? No permit. And what does a permit do for you? That permit gets recorded by the who? Recorder of deeds. And if the recorder of deeds don't know you added 2 more bathrooms in those other bedrooms, you're just working for nothing.
And the appraiser will flag it when you try to get out of that hard money loan.
They're gonna flag it. So all this, I want the open concept and all this other business, you just got stuck. And as an investor and a developer, y'all can come give me a spanking for this. I just be sitting waiting. I think I want that house. Because he's not going to finish. 9 times out of 10 for a new investor, the hard money person is not going to finish that loan. Because number one, per the amortization, he don't have enough time. The permitting process in the city of Chicago is evil. My son's going through that right now. We waiting, month and a half for electrical inspection? And he still got to pay a mortgage. And the first thing he's going to say, Dad, got a few dollars? I'm just being silly. No, he can handle his own. So I just want to give you that little caveat, that little nugget right there. Again, interim finance, acquisition, and construction, you better know what you're doing, and it's not for the faint of heart. A 203K is not for the faint of heart either. I've done loans with Mr. Dominic here, 203K. We just had one crashed and burned on us, a couple weeks ago? The buyer gets all these systems of grandeur in his head, and I want to do all of this. Do what the HUD consultant and the appraiser are telling you to do. Well, Dan, just don't put it in the report. Dude, somebody else coming behind me, and he's going to flag all of this. So don't waste both of our times. So we don't want to do that like that. We want to do this the right way. Eligible property types: single-family homes, duplex, triplexes, 4-unit apartment buildings, condominiums, mixed-use residence. Restrictions will apply. I love the mixed use. Like Trump say, I love the poorly educated. I love the mixed use property. They're pretty tough. Me and Mr. Bailey here, we had 2 of those crash and burn on us. You want to talk a little bit about how it crashed and burned on us, Mr. Bailey?
Well, when you do a mixed use property, that's one of the greatest things in the world if it works out, because you can get some residential units on top of storefront and maybe put your business down there, open up a daycare center, make an event space or something, and you're going to get that same 3.5% down that you get on a regular residential property. One of the big guidelines is that the residential part has to be at least 51% of the square footage.
Right.
But the commercial space, you can't do any work on it. That's not the biggest problem. The commercial space has to be not dangerous. So if it has anything that, like holes in the floor, the ceiling, some hanging wires or something, that's going to prevent the project from happening.
Right.
And then the other thing is you have to kind of be realistic, and you have to be able to comp it out, because it might look like you're going to get rent and everything, but if all the other properties like that they compare to are selling for $150 and you're paying $100, but you need to do $175,000 worth of work, it's just not going to work. So that comes where the team's involved. I'm involved. The realtor's going to hopefully run some, do comps and tell you, what the limit is. Then Dan's going to tell you if it's realistic or not. And at that point, hopefully you can get out of it before you, spend a lot of time. But if it works, great. But a lot of times that's where, well, I think this property is going to be worth $300,000-$400,000. But if it's in a neighborhood where everything's worth $200, it's worth $200.
Right. Here's the thing with 203Ks in mixed use. There's a word I like to use when I was teaching carpentry. I tell folk all the time, you need to be a student of what you're doing. And who's a student? What is a student? A student is the person who studies. If you don't know what you're doing, this 203K, you're going to blame everybody. Everybody's done you wrong. The HUD consultant, he wouldn't let me do this. And the appraiser wouldn't let me do that. And then the renovation department wouldn't let me do this. And my mama came over and she wouldn't let me do nothing either. You got to study this stuff. And if the more you know about what you are doing, the cheaper your project is going to be, believe it or not. You may think you're cutting the corner. Well, I'm going to let this guy, and I want to come in and let this guy use his license. Another guy going to be doing this, and some more folk going to be doing that. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of doing it the right way the first time. Everybody with me? So everybody, we want y'all to adopt that, to be a fan of doing it the right way. And one thing I tell my son and anybody else who's doing a 203K, this is what you better adopt. Y'all ready for this? This is your new baby. Take what the house, what D? Take what the house gives you. I'm sitting in here rehabbing this house right here, and my bathroom was going to be big as this sanctuary. And then I had 2 more bedrooms I was adding. It was going to be bigger than this. When I got through, I think my bathroom was about big as this poster. Guess what I had to do? I had to take what the house gave me. The first present I got from the old house was my stack for my toilet. Didn't want to move that, so I had to take what that house gave me. Per that stack being there, my bathroom shrank. So I'm just rehabbing away with my little cocky, arrogant self. I'm just rehabbing away. No oversight, no permit, no nothing. I'm a hucking, so I know everything I got to do. Well, my house stood there for 3 months, maybe 4 months, until I got proper permits. And then, where's this little area right here? This was going to be one of my bigger bedrooms. And the city said, well, how y'all going to get down the stairs if there's a fire? Well, I'm going to take the front stairs. Well, I know. But you're just going to have some back stairs just in case. And the city said, we got to put those in. Unforeseen, $8,000 later, I had to put those egress steps in there. Where did that come from? There's a couple kids got burned up, 8 or 9 kids got burned up living on the 3rd floor. City says no more. If you want to put some 3rd floors in there, people living in there, you got to have egress from the top all the way down to grade, which is where the dirt is. Everybody follow me on that? So, and another thing with the mixed use residents will really, really work for you, coupled with another program. Get in there, get your residency squared away. They got TIF money you can use for that remodeled, that mixed use. There's other funds you can get when you're done. So everybody with me on that? Get the residency, become the owner, and then go try to get some TIF money as far as the mixed use is concerned. 203K single family homes. Property must be 1 to 4 dwelling, completed within a year. No, I ain't never seen a tough renovation done in a year. Mine was done in a year and a half. How long we doing your? About a year. So we just filed for extensions. That's not a really, really big deal. Properties can be converted from a 1-family dwelling into a 2, 3, or 4 dwelling of an existing multi-unit building. Okay, real quick. I had another customer that told me he know how it go. He had one of those big old graystones in Bronzeville. Danny, this is a single family graystone, but I'm finna make it a 3-flat. Really? You finna do what? Well, I'm finna make this. And then, this is the funniest thing, and I really was embarrassed later, but I talked to the guy, and I'm like, that ain't even doable. So the guy told me, talk to my contractor. And I talked to the contractor, and the contractor was an old agent that I had been working with. And I started laughing. And she said she's the contractor. What do you the contractor? When you just got your license and you finna do this single family to go to 3 units? I said, you're gonna tear up 35 to 40% of the square footage getting your entryways developed to be able to go up the stairs to get to the other units. That's a total waste of paper, money in this case. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Well, you just getting too involved and we want you off the project. I done got fired at least 8 times last year. You know who fired me? The folks that's not students. We call them people with IEPs, individual educational plans. Because you think you know, when did you get your HUD consultant's license? When did you get your contractor's license? That you're gonna do all of this sort of thing. You live in your life based on HGTV. You better follow your team. Get you a good loan officer, Mr. Bailey. He was the loan officer for that project.
About HGTV? This is the first thing that people that watch HGTV and want to do a project wants to know. They deal in cash.
Right. And as soon as I walked through the door, Does anybody know for an extra chicken wing? Does anybody know when we walk through the door, what are they going to say to the HUD consultant and the contractor? They're going to say, can you knock those walls out? That's the first thing they're going to say. We want the wall knocked out. See, they laughing back there. They know. Can we knock the wall out? Yeah, you can, with an architectural exhibit. So now your renovation just went up $6,000 to $8,000 because you got to get those architectural plans because ain't nothing happening. Okay, well, I'm going to knock. Can you do it on a Sunday? We just knock the wall out? Well, you can knock the wall out on Sunday, and you're going to get an orange sticker on Monday. So go ahead and knock the wall out. So when he come up in there and examine your house for the electrical that you did get a permit on, well, where's this wall missing? And these people ain't stupid. This is what their jobs are. You getting ready to get an orange sticker. And don't be caught, well, Mr. Morgan, they put an orange sticker on my house. What do I do now? Wait for your court date. And here's the thing that's really tragic about that. They can charge you $1,500 a day. And guess when your next court day is? 45 days away. Believe me, chances are you ain't going to, well, I'm going to give my cousin, he going to take over from me. City hip to all of that. Ain't nothing happening. So you're about to be foreclosed on. Okay, so the 203K mortgage may be originated on a mixed use, and we talked about that restrictions applying. The department also permits Section 203K mortgage to be used for individual units, condominiums. Now this right here gets a little hairy, so I'm going to let Mr. Bailey talk about this condominium business. It's pretty.
Condos are pretty straightforward because, not a lot of, just basically a rehab loan. The problem is that in order to get any kind of FHA financing on the condo has to be FHA approved. And I'm not 100% sure you can do a spot loan on a condominium, but a lot of people say, you get an FHA spot loan, but if you're going to get a spot loan, a lot of times you might as well just get the whole condo approved because it takes about the same time. It's like 2 extra documents to get it approved. But that it can get done, but the chance of you finding an FHA approved condo is very slim. And one of the main reasons is there's been a lot of FHA approved condos, but FHA condo approval only lasts for 2 years. And unless you have a condo association that's willing to refile the documents every 2 years, doesn't change, the condo president retired or somebody else moved in and they have any idea, you got to start the process all over again. Half the documents are still good, but nobody ever knows where they are.
Now, yes, Ms. Adams.
Yes, I mean the condo has the same restrictions that are regular, right. So roughly $29,000, $30,000 worth of renovation on the condo. But if you find an FHA approved condo, that's probably as big a problem as finding getting it done.
Right. Here's a quick question: what if you run across a building that got 30 raccoons, 12 squirrels, couple old dogs and cats running through the place, and there's no way we're going to rehab that? What if you want to tear that building down and build a whole new structure? You think 203K will let you do that? Yes, they will. You can build a brand new house on an existing foundation. Okay. Now here's where it gets tricky. Well, it's not even tricky. Take my house, for example. The rear of the property, I had to put a new foundation up under it to expand the walls. My son brought his walls out 16, 17 feet. He had to pour a new foundation to tie into the old foundation. It was a slab on grade, but that's what he had to do. You can take an old house, knock it completely down, and build a whole new dwelling on that property. Yes. That's part of your scope of work.
Try to get that done in 6 months.
Yeah. Now you know what I would rather do? I would rather knock that house down. I could do it in 6 months. Can you build a new house in 6 months? Most folks, yeah, they can build a new house in 90 days. To me, retrofitting an old house to a new house is one of the most difficult things you can do based on me and my son. That's tough. Tying the old with the new, and we like, it's a whole lot of, damn, where'd this come from? It's a whole lot of that going on. But when you knock that whole thing down, everything going up is new construction. Yes, Ms. Adams. That's what you negotiate. I would say about $25,000. Yes, Faith. Guess what? That's what Mr. Morgan did.
One caveat to that. This is something we just recently found out for FHA. You can renovate you can refinance your house into a 203K, but it has to be currently occupied. It can't be unoccupied unless you just had a fire or something. But it can't have, you can't buy a house and not live in it, and then 3 months later, a year later, decide you want to do a 203K renovation. FHA currently does not allow that.
They're not going to do it. Yes, Dominic. If the MRP is funded, a lot of times the program is there, but they ain't got no funds. So long as they give you funds, of course you can.
I'm sorry. Sometimes MMRP, there are different kinds. The general one is neighborhood specific. So if I got people that want to do it, what they'll do is they'll basically give me the address. I'll put the address in a website, and it'll tell me whether or not it's compatible with the MMRP program. Sometimes, just like even certain type of down payment assistance loan, one side of the street is okay and the other side isn't.
That's weird. Mm-hmm. Yes, Ms. Adams. No, you refinancing and you doing some renovations.
For instance, I'll give you a perfect example. You have a house and the kitchen's from 1960 and the bathroom is, old and it's time to upgrade it, or, maybe even to put the other floor on there or something like that. That's basically a 203K renovation. The nice thing about something like that is that if you know you're going to do it, you can get your permits and stuff ahead of time.
That's true.
So that by the time you actually do it, you can hit the ground rolling, as opposed to a purchase where you got to do everything after the fact. So you can do all your prep work. So then it'll be a really quick job that'll take 30 days or 45 days instead of 4 months, and half that time is spent waiting on permits and things to come.
Right. So you can, and the permits last a year.
Right. Right,
you can.
See, like if I were doing a 203K refi, what I would suggest you do is you get your 203K consultant and you get your contractor, and then you get all that done,
planning.
and then you get your permits done. Then when you actually pull the trigger on the 203K loan, you can start working day one.
Right. Now here's a little something you better know about when you're refinancing and doing a 203K. After you refinance, I did the same thing, and when my roof came off, over here, the raccoons and possum came with it. Then seagulls and everything. And every day I'm sleeping, scratching and clawing and things stomping around, because my house, it was wide open. I mean, I went from the third floor, the first floor, sleeping on the second floor, and the raccoons was just there. My electricians was eating a lot of chocolate, drinking coffee, and they weren't the tidiest people. And the raccoons have a super sensitive nose. They came right on, they moved in. I had to go get 2 pellet guns. You ain't paying no rent, you gotta go. You ain't hammering, you gotta go. Yes, Miss Adams. So is the criteria the same? Exactly the same.
The one good thing about it is if you have equity in your house, you can use the equity in lieu of a down payment and closing costs. So let's say your house, your house is, you owe $100,000 on your house, it's currently worth $150,000. After you get through it, it'd be worth $275,000. So you can take that, you get an appraisal, when you get 2 appraisals in that situation, you get 1 appraisal, that appraisal establishes the value to give you equity to do the transaction, the as-is equity, and then the second appraisal establishes the value after you do the repairs. But the first appraisal allows you to use the equity for your down payment and closing costs. So you could essentially do, some people would take money out to do it. Essentially, you took a cash out refinance to do your house without actually taking money out.
Right.
Well, if you, no. So the as-is establishes your equity,
what your equity state.
Your equity that you can take in lieu of a down payment and closing costs. So, right. The as-is one gives you
the down payment. It gives you your down payment assistance for a long.
No. Like for instance, let's say the house is worth $300,000. The renovation. So if you refinance, then you got to come up, and you don't have any equity, and you got to come up with 3.5%, even though you're doing a refinance.
Right.
But by you having equity there, the equity that you have there allows you not to have to spend any money out of your pocket, or very little money out of your pocket.
Yes, Faith. Yes. That's a very, very good question. I want you to answer that question based on what I told you already. Here's the thing. You can. You just tie it into the existing foundation.
So you have to expand on the foundation.
You got to now if you want to go on the other lot and start building, no. You gotta establish something on that existing foundation. Everybody with me on that? So the other thing is I want to just go over real quick. The eligible improvements: painting, plumbing, carpentry, electrical, room additions, decks, HVAC, and other things. If you got radiator systems in your house and you're going for HVAC, you need an architect. The city want to see line drawings for where the new heating system is going to be, whether it's a high efficiency or 80%er. If you're doing a new electrical run, they want an architectural exhibit of what the new electrical run is going to be. Any infrastructure, HVAC, plumbing, or electrical, if you're changing those things in their entirety, you need architectural exhibits.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Are we talking about the city of Chicago or in general?
We're talking about the city of Chicago.
So what if you're doing something in the suburbs? Would something like that be on a case-by-case basis?
It's a case-by-case basis because I got kind of a culture shock. I was doing a renovation in Hammond about 3 weeks ago. You don't need copper. You don't need conduit to run your electrical. You can run all of it in BX. I'm like, what in the world is going on? And then I see this guy putting the thing together, and he got plastic water pipes. They call PEX. I'm like, what's going on here? And dude like, this is legal. I'm getting ready to go get some property in Hammond. Do you know why I'm getting ready to get some property in Hammond? Because anybody can just start sticking plastic together and their plumbing is done. You ain't got to be soldering things around and doing all these things. You through. Yes, ma'am. Y'all from Indiana. I'm talking about y'all, ain't you? Listen, that's why I told you day one, we're going to help you make informed decisions. By making an informed decisions, you can say X, Y, and Z, but knowing what you're dealing with. I was in the coach. I was like, what's going on in Hammond? And I mean, you can be through with your renovation as far as your infrastructure in almost 3 weeks. You're just sticking plastic pipe together, and then you just running BX, unwrapping it, and stapling it in place. And you calling for your inspection. They can be through wiring your house in 2 days. Texas is the same way. But in Chicago, that same electrical HVAC renovation may take you 4 months with the inspections and everything. Yes, Faith? Nope. Hammond said it ain't no safety issue. Hammond said long as the wire is encased. And what's the difference between BX and conduit? Does anybody know? What now? Flexibility. That's the only thing. You don't need a 90-degree connector. You just bend it and keep moving, and then staple it down and call for your inspection. That's unbelievable. Please, Chicago, do something like that. I mean, me and my granddaughter, Danny Reese, gonna start doing rehabs. Danny, you just staple everything, and Papa gonna put the wire in where it go. And she gonna say, yeah, where's my little baby at? That's her right there. She's a Viking. So anyway, I digress. Stop it. Okay, so those are the eligible improvements, but again, for the decks, the room additions, you can't use a streamline, even if it fits into the price point. You're gonna try to do a streamline and you add another deck or some new HVAC, the bank probably gonna tell you no. You better call a HUD consultant. So my contractor gave me everything I need to know, you better call a HUD consultant.
My definition is if you don't have to move a wall or you're not completely replacing a system like electrical, plumbing, or something like that, then you can do more than likely you can do a streamline. But if you have to move, if you're moving a wall or you're replacing or doing a wholesale replacement system, you cannot do a streamline.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Bailey to ask about this appraisal report. The after improved values, expected market value of the property is determined upon completion of the proposed renovation and or improvement, and as is a separate appraisal. Uniform residential appraisal report may be required to determine the as is value. That went to Ms. Adams' question.
Okay.
what's the as-is value? How do we determine that? Or you want to chat on that for a
So
second?
the only time you actually do an as-is report is if you're doing a refinance and you want to use the equity in lieu of putting any money into the transaction. So when you get a regular 203K appraisal, you don't really address the as-is value. You get an appraisal, and the appraiser gets his report, or if you're just doing a streamline, so on a regular 203K, or a streamline where you get a 203K, or a streamline where you get a 203K consultant, then you use the consultant's report. You send that along with your contract to get the to get the value. Or if you're just doing a consultant, then or if you're just doing a 203K limited, which is what we call a streamline now, then you send the contractor's bid along, and the appraiser appraises it with the assumption that everything is already done, and he'll give you an after appraised value. You only use the as-is value when you're doing a refinance. But if I was doing a 203K loan and I was a realtor, I would, your as-is value would be your current, whatever the current purchase price is. And then I think just a rule of thumb, if I was your client, I would ask the client what they plan on doing, and then go around and try to find comps, and then use those comps to establish what the budget that you might be working with. For instance, the property's worth $150. After repairs are going to be worth $225. That's $75,000. I would take like 85%, let's say 80% of that, which may be about 60, and that would be your repair budget. So if the repairs look like they're going at about 100, that deal is not going to work. So we need to be looking at a different property or scaling down our expectations.
I'm going to ask the guys from Crown Mortgage. Have you guys done any 203Ks? No? Just looking at the program? Now, are you guys FHA qualified to do the 203K? You just haven't just got into it for it because it's just never been part of your business. We're going to be new colleagues working together. I go all the way to Valparaiso, Crown Point, Monster, doing these things. The 203K, done right, when I got through with my house, I had $85,000 of equity. And folk asked me, why are you putting 5 or 6 bedrooms in your house and ain't nobody living there but you and your wife? I ran out of stuff to do. So I'm a carpenter, so I just started rehabbing. And my son says, well, if we doing all that, let's do my house. And we had just got that house, 7 years ago? And we found that little house in the alley. Nobody wanted, 39 grand. The little $39,000 house, what it's worth, $450 now? Somewhere like that. I love that 203K. So again, done right with a great HUD consultant, woo-woo. Great HUD consultant, great lender.
The best 203K deal I ever did was, I think this property was in some place like Lansing or something. The gentleman found a house with an atrium on it in the back. And basically the 203K repair was just to repair the atrium and a couple of little peel and paint things. And house had like $100,000 worth of equity after he did those repairs because the atrium was, the glass was broken, so you couldn't really sell it. So the appraiser couldn't appraise it for less than even the smallest comp was $80,000 more. So if you found a diamond in the rough, it might not even take a lot of money to get it done. But sometimes if you've got a house and, it's a great house, got a hole in the roof, can't sell it to anybody else, so it's on the market, right. Do the roof, and while I'm at it, I'll get the floors redone and maybe spruce up the kitchen a little bit, and you got a house with equity in it.
Yes, Dominic.
Well, it's okay. Anytime you do an FHA or any owner-occupied property, you're doing an owner-occupied property with the express intent that you're going to live there. So this is my rule of thumb, and I think nobody will come back on you if you stay in there at least a year. Now, you can have unforeseen change of circumstances. Let's say you're in a 2-bedroom house and you're a single father. Then you marry a lady and she's got 2 kids. That house, and you do that 3 months after you buy your house to do your renovation. That house no longer suits your needs. Then we wouldn't have a problem with you getting a bigger house because the house you got no longer suits your needs, and that's something that's documentable. In general, a purchase or a refinance, I consider them both a year if it's an owner-occupied transaction.
Quick question. Quick question. Yes, Faith. See, I love that question. I just love that question. Faith is one of them slick people. She one of them slick people. I know she is. No, I'm just being silly with Faith because we go way back. But here's the thing. Hey, no, you're supposed to.
Okay.
You're supposed to.
Okay. Okay, I'm not sure they'll know if you moved out, but let's say you're moving out to buy another property. You're going to have to explain that.
Oh, so my question was, how would anyone know if you moved out of the home before 12 months?
Here's why. Because I'm going to tell.
Okay, so we
No,
just
I'm not going
can't
to
tell
you.
you.
No. You whatever you're doing,
Okay.
you do it with your own risk. I'm saying follow the guidelines,
Okay.
but
Okay, so there is no defined length of time you have to stay on the property, but my rule of thumb from 20 years of experience is that if you stay in a house and a year later you do something else, nobody's going to come after you with bad intent in their heart, asking you questions about why did you do that.
and I've done a deal where HUD told the guy, this ain't no regular 203K, and we're going to deny you. And he was getting ready to close in like 2 days. This is some investment stuff you got going on, and we just not going to close this loan.
Okay.
Per the underwriter.
But I'm saying,
Then also you have a smell test. If you got 7 investment properties and no primary residence, and the property you buying is a 3-unit, the lender's going to have some hard questions for you as to, are you actually buying this to live in?
Well, this is the first time everybody gave me a microphone. But anyway, how would they know? Wait, I got lost. How would they know?
In general, they won't. But
No, you said they said it was going to be a investor. How would they know that's at the end? That's what that's going to be. What led to them saying that?
There's a word called underwriting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And just like appraisers, just like home inspectors, some of these people are seasoned veterans. We've heard that word before, right? Seasoned veterans. You run into one of them, you're going to know I got a seasoned veteran.
Okay. A lot of times you can't get caught, but if you do get caught and you don't think you're getting caught, you probably have a paper trail that you never really planned on living there anyway. Like you close on the property and then 2 months later you put a owner-occupied contract on another property. But nobody knows about it until somebody actually calls you on it. So if nobody calls you on it, great. But if somebody calls you on it, or let's say you're doing it, constantly doing it, 3 or 4 properties down the line, you have a paper trail.
And just for folks who just want to skirt the system, what you can do, you can get you a pre-made orange jumpsuit, and then you ready to go. So that way you'll have your stuff ready and put something on the books for your Zuzus and Wham Whams.
Also, the number one fraud for real estate is not fraud to do anything. Is occupancy fraud, like you buying something under false pretenses to get a lower down payment. So lenders are, they'll ask questions. Sometimes if I got a scenario and it's kind of like what you said and it doesn't look right, I will send that to the underwriter to let the underwriter tell me if it'll work or not before you get far enough down the road, and then they say no, because it has to kind of pass the smell test, because they do audit properties that they think have just a tinge of not being an owner-occupied transaction. Not that it'll happen, but if it can happen.
So again, home buyers who purchase a property with cash can refinance the property using 203K within 6 months. To make a long story short. Everybody with me on that? Now, here's what I'm going to be doing from now on. For the folks that's in here, we're going to have an ongoing relationship. I'm going to start like an association kind of thing, what's working and what's not working. And I think it's going to be good for us to help grow the communities. We need real estate agents who understand this process. We need capable loan officers like Crown Mortgage and Guarantee Rate who understand these processes. We need the Mike Daniels and the Faith Washingtons of the world to understand this process to help us revitalize community. Now here's another thing. The more people you get to move in underserved communities, the valuable that community is going to be worth, because it's home ownership that's in demand now rather than home ownership. Don't nobody want to live over there. Perfect example was Little Village. Perfect example was Pilsen. You can find something that was built in 1850 for Pilsen. They're going to tear that down as soon as they acquire it. And the folks selling the little huts over there for almost $200,000. But whatever you're going to build on there probably going to be worth $1 million. Pilsen Little Village in those highly populated areas. So I suggest to everybody, if you're going to be in this market, do your research, okay? So let's get the research done. Architectural exhibits. The home buyer may decide to employ an architect or consultant to prepare the proposal. The home buyer must provide the lender with appropriate architectural exhibits that clearly show the scope of work. Here's the thing. Can we get a working drawing? Would those be considered, and it's not been stamped? Yeah. That's all the underwriters really want to know. We got some working drawings. We got something that we can, okay, the scope of work makes sense to us. So give them something to work with, and then we can just kind of keep that whole deal moving. But if you just going in, I'm going to do this my way, how I'm going to do it and all that, we're going to run into some problems. So they want you to clearly show the scope of work that's going to be accomplished. A plot plan that's plat of survey for folk who don't know what that is, of the site is required only if a new addition is being made to existing structures. That right there will make you pull your hair out. Does anybody know what they're talking about right there? So say, for instance, I'm going to use my phone as an example. Here's the existing house. I'm going to put something on top of that. Well, this existing house got to have a plat of survey, and when you build on top of it, it's not going to be up the wall. You got to do a fire code deal. You got to indent that house on both sides by about 2 feet.
There's a picture behind you
24
of an
inches
addition on top, right above.
So right here, it's not on that same wall line. I had to indent. Why did it make you do that? I don't know. I don't like it. My son don't like it either. But that's a city requirement. And it gets very, very dicey. And then you can leave this part of the house wood, but if you go here for the addition, it's got to be fiber siding, fiber cement siding. Because guess what? Your new build has got to have a 3-hour burn rate. So you got to use 2 sheets of drywall, 5/8, with an hour burn rate. So that's 2 hours, and then your siding got to bring that other 1.5 hour burn rate in. Again, that's because those little kids got trapped in a home. None of them survived. So the city calls for burn rates, and I will just say this: I think that building material is not the best, but it does satisfy burn rates. I'm just not a big fan of it. So that's another story for another day. And so you'll need a plot of survey for the walks, the drives, the streets, and other relevant details. In addition to, if you got a 2-flat building and then you're trying to put basement apartment in there, guess what one of your biggest expenditures is going to be? Anybody got a wild guess?
Digging down.
Digging down, but what you got to dig down and accomplish? Your plumbing. Your plumbing is probably going to go from $15,000 to $20,000, probably to about $40,000. Why is it going to do that? Because you got to put new 1.5 inch plumbing down in the ground and bring it all the way to your house for proper water pressure. That's an unforeseen. I didn't figure on that. That right there may hurt a little bit. It's probably going to sting a little bit. Now, the proposed interior plans of a dwelling showing where the structural or plan changes are contemplated, the including addition of the dwelling must be included in the plan. Now, real quick, that's HGTV. Everybody's doing HGTV. Who's any real estate agents in the house who's went into a property, and as soon as they got in there, the client said, we're going to knock the wall down? Raise your hand if you didn't have that happen to you. Is your job, one more time, is your job to stop that? Stop all that HGTV talk, because you're going to get frustrated, and what's going to happen next, your deal is going to become stagnant. I need all the agents from, I agree, raise your hand, right hand. Everybody raise your right hand. I agree. Mike, I don't see your hand up, Mike. Come on. I agree to stop that. No more HGTV. Okay, now y'all part of Danny. Y'all part of the group. You better stop that. Okay, if they doing a 203K, fine. They got to go pull a platinum survey. You can knock all the wall down you want. But guess what? They just raised their bill up $8,000. Number one, and not only that, you just slowed your renovation down easy by 6 months. Easy. And guess what else?
How long does the city of Chicago take to give you a permit after you get an architectural drawing?
Oh my God. What? 6 months, 8 months, a year? Took me about 4 or 5 months. How long? My son had his drawings 1 year before he started his renovation. 1 whole year before he started. And I'm like, Dan, you better get them plans, man. Because the city ain't playing with us. The consultant must prepare the work write-up and cost estimates without using contractors' bids. Well, my contractor got a bid. Can you just use that? No, I don't want to. Well, Mr. Morgan, you just did my write-up, and these numbers are crazy. Go find a contractor to bring that price down. Okay, we got an abandoned building, right? I'm gonna do a scope of work right now. Everybody ready? Scope of work saying we need 25 windows, right? Anybody got a calculator? Get the calculator ready. We finna do a scope of work real quick. So far, we got 25 windows that's needed. So we're gonna charge you $500 a window. My rule of thumb, 5 times the 25, what do we got?
12,000.
We got what now? 12,005, right? So that's our window scope. That's cap windows and all. So we got 2 bathrooms. It's 3 fixtures in the bathroom, right? $1,500 per fixture is the standard rate. That's $4,500 a bathroom, $9,000 for plumbing, plus the kitchen. We're going to add another $10,500 plus the water tanks and stuff like that. So you got a $13,000 plumbing. So we got $13,000 plus $12,500. We at $26,000, right or wrong. We got a flat roof modified bitumen. We're going to charge you $18,000 for that roof. So we at $25,000, $35,000. We at $47,000 so far. So we got $47,000. Now we got 16 linear feet of cabinets. I'm going to give you an allowance of $10,000. So now we got $57,000 plus the 10. We got 47 plus the 10. We got $57,000. So we got the cabinets. We got the cabinets. We got the plumbing. We got the windows, right? HVAC with air conditioning and a duct run. You got $10,000 per unit. So we got $20,000 more. So now we at $77,000. We got your flooring. You going to hardwood floor? You got $12 a square foot, labor and material. 1,000 square feet per floor. You got $12,000. You got $24,000 for your flooring. Where we at right now? See how we developing the scope of work together. So now we got to put the doors in. We got to put the trim in. We got to do all. We got painting both those units. $4,500 a piece, $9,000. So we added the $9,000 to that. Everybody see me? Now you need a back porch. $12,000 per story. We had $24,000 for the porches that you want to add to that. Where we at now? We had about $135,000. Y'all see where we going with this scope of work? Now, Mr. Morgan, you came up here with all these crazy numbers. I ain't got that much money. What we're doing now is your feasibility study. Everybody say it with me. Feasibility study. Is this project feasible? You take your client, put him in that car. All I got $80,000 extra, Mr. Morgan. I only got approved for this. Move on. I'm going to go over the feasibility over the phone with him. It don't cost you nothing to call Dan. Dan, give me some numbers on the fly. You just got them. Get in your car and go. The client, well, I really like that property. What? Okay. Well, I'm going to give you an SOR. It's going to be $1,000, and we're going to keep that moving. So now you still want that property? Because I want my $1,000. Well, Mr. Morgan, can I get my money back because the property didn't go through? Well, I told you it wasn't going through, and no, you cannot. No, you cannot. I done did my work. I done tried to tell you how this is going to go, and you're the one that's being hard-headed. So as a real estate agent, I'm going to tell you, you got to develop your what? Rules of thumb. You got to develop that, because you got to be the general contractor first before I get there. You got to be the home inspector first before I get there. Quit wasting your time, your client's time, and you ain't wasting my time, because I want my paper when I get there. Now you can do anything you want, but I need a check. When the F-150 pull up, I'm looking for a check first before I start talking, because the flag is still down in the cab. Raise that flag. Then I can start talking. Then I'm going to start telling you about your windows and your roof and your stuff. But I ain't going to tell you none of the stuff with my flag down. So y'all with me on that? Y'all are our first line of defense with spinning your wheel. You got your little heels on, walking with your client. Come on, girl, I'm going to show you what's going on. And then the guy going all tough, this is how we're going to do this. We ain't doing none of that. Feasibility-wise, y'all with me on this? Call me for a quick feasibility walkthrough. Miss Warren, they're going to definitely need windows. They want a new kitchen cabinet. I'm going to run the numbers right over the phone. Here's what I'm going to say about a 203K. Don't make it hard. Go get the client, bring the client to me, and go get another client. Danny got that. I'm going to call you when it's time for us to do our thing some more. Now you got to go get a client. This is a revenue stream that most real estate agents bypass. I want me a house already made with my kitchens and cat. Go build your own house. You got a great HUD consultant. We got great contractors under our, go build out Inglewood. Go build out Hammond with your BX and your PX pipe and all this other stuff. Go do your job and get out of my way. You're not a HUD consultant. So let us do what we're supposed to do. Build your team. Use your loan officer. Use your HUD consultant. Use your attorney. Use your real estate agent the right way. And folk, quit letting people use you up, waste your time. Because folks will burn you up. Right, Mike? Me and Mike be running around here looking at stuff, and as soon as we get in the basement, oh, I'm gone. I ain't going in that basement, Mike. We went in basements, baby. Well, we ain't going to get into that. I went into a basement the other day. I ain't going to get into that neither. I'm going to leave that alone. But do your homework and prevent you from spinning all your wheels. And then I'm going to tell you what else you want to do as a real estate agent. Go in there and find out what your client wants. Go get them pre-approved and find out what your client wants. And then I'll train you, after you done bought me a cheeseburger or something, on how to keep that thing moving. Everybody with me? What did you need to bring to Danny to help get additional training? Cheeseburger. And don't be bringing me no McDonald's cheeseburger, because that's not real cheese. I need some Five Guys or some real stuff. I'm going to do a test on the cheddar. And if it's fake, you ain't getting no conversation. Everybody with me on that? So who is the first person in line for these 203Ks? Say it with me. The who? The realtor.
Can I make one suggestion? If you have a buyer that's looking at a property that you know it needs rehab, my suggestion is do a really, really quick market analysis and just figure out if the property was fixed up, what do you think is going to be worth? Because if it's selling for 150, the high in the neighborhood is 200. You look at the property even online and see that the kitchen is, and the bathroom, you just know that that's just not going to be feasible. So have an idea, because just the same way that your clients send you a bunch of properties and you kind of look at the details and figure out which one not to bother with or not. Sometimes you can do that on a 2 or 3K loan. You can just, okay, even if this gets really fixed up, this is what it's going to be worth, and then you kind of establish a benchmark of the most you can put into it, and that'll help you from, even having to do some of that feasibility studies that Dan said.
Right. I'm going to help you guys be successful with this 203K. I'm going to help everybody in this room build out their clientele. Even if you're doing it for yourself, I'm going to help you get this thing squared away, because the more agents I can get to do this the right way, the more it is for better for Crown Mortgage, for Guaranteed Rate, and for our community. Let's make this bread and let's keep this thing moving. Everybody with me on that? So home buyers doing their own work cannot, most banks are going to frown on you self-performing. Most banks don't want you to do that. Some of them will let you, but all they're going to pay for is material only. They're not going to pay you for labor. Well, I'm doing my own little stuff in there. I try to convince this guy in Maywood, don't do that. All they're going to give you is money for your material. That's it. Well, can I get some little bit for, no, that's all they're going to give you. That's what I told you. So we want to be very, very conscious of that. Loan definitions. In your book, when I was writing, I thought it was very, very important, and I'll tell you the reason why I came up with this. In the back of the book, I felt it very, very important to put glossary in the back. Where did I get that from? I started teaching my little students who nobody believed in. They were 18, 17, 18, 19 years old, reading on the 3rd grade reading level. It broke my heart. So when I told these kids, you know, we're going to talk about integers today. We're going to talk about algebra today. They looked at me like, Mr. Morgan, we don't want to do that. And nobody's expecting that from us. But the first thing I taught those kids were the definitions. Now, who's good at algebra? Who was good at algebra in here? Ever, raise your hand. Not my son, because, okay, we got a hand in the back. I'll give you $50 right now if you can answer this one question. Ready? Stand up so I can be embarrassed. Okay, I'm giving her $50 if she could. She said she was good at math. Okay. You don't need it. So did you take algebra? Okay, she said, what'd you get in algebra? Okay, she was pretty good. Guess what? Here's the thing I want to ask you. Tell me the definition of algebra.
Wait a minute.
And she thought she needed a calculator. Tell me the definition, huh? Don't be stuttering.
It's math without, I don't know, that's a good question.
Oh, wow. You gonna ask your son, and you gonna give your son the $50. He ain't gonna know neither. You know what algebra is? It's basic arithmetic with an unknown variable.
I knew that.
You didn't know that.
I was gonna say no numbers, I swear I was.
So everybody, what's 5 plus 5? Everybody said, what's 5 plus 5? Okay, 5 plus 5 equals 10. So 5 plus x equals 10. What does x equal? 5. So you guys are algebra majors. That's all algebra is. It's basic arithmetic with an unknown variable. And the kids said, that's all? And guess what? The scores went right through the roof. Nobody expected anything from these kids. When I start, okay, one more time. You're going to redeem yourself. We'll give you $100. Yeah, you again. Okay, what's an integer? It's something that intercedes and come in between. You better sit down. An integer is any whole number and its opposite. But when a kid getting ready to do a word problem, he was like, what are they talking about? But I taught them the definitions. And last but not least, let's take the minuend of 43 and the septuagint of 27, and let's discuss the difference. What the hell is Mr. Morgan talking about? Anybody know? Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Minuend of 43, septuagint of 27, let's discuss the difference. I'm talking about a subtraction problem. I'm saying 27 minus 40, 43 minus 27, and give me the answer. Guess what? That's how they talk to the kids. And the kids, I don't know what they're talking about. So the first day of class, every year that I taught, the first problem we did in math was 1 plus 1. I told them the top number was the add in, the bottom number is the add in, and the bottom number with the line up on is the sum. And that's how I start training my kids. They broke all kind of records. That's how I'm gonna do y'all the same way. In the back of your book, we got definitions. I told a lady, well, we got CTC. And she told me, what, I'm finna get some Cinnamon Toast Crunch? You clear the clothes, sweetheart. That's all we talking about. This ain't got nothing to do with no Cinnamon Toast Crunch. We need to help our clientele become aware or what everybody's talking about. You sitting down there, yep, sign right here, yep. That's the problem. Nobody knows what they are signing, including me. When I've decided I don't want to sign no more stuff and I don't know what I'm signing, I changed. My son, I don't want him, he don't sign nothing he don't want to be signing because he know the definitions. My granddaughters, they'll tell you the definitions. My little baby, 4 years old, she can talk about archaeologists and she know what it is. We studying dinosaurs here, Papa. 4 years old. So I can't even impress upon you guys. You got to learn the definitions of this stuff. And guess what else? After you know the definition, I'm going to tell you something that's going to happen to you that's going to blow your mind. Your income is almost going to double. Because people want to be around people who know what they're talking about. And I hate to say this, but sometimes I love the poorly educated for my bottom line. You don't know what's going on? Well, I do, and you got to pay me for it. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Because next time, you're going to know. Next time, you ain't got to pay for this. But today, you do. Because I spent my time with these definitions, and that's what I'm going to help you with. The lender needs this kind of thing going on. So the definitions: insurance of advances, rehabilitation escrow account, inspections, holdback, contingency reserves, mortgage payment reserve. These all, this 203K talk. Contingency reserve. Anybody know what that is? That's just your contingency. Whatever it is, 10%, 15%. And by the way, your contingency can be 15, 20% of the deal if the utilities are off. You ain't got no water on, they're going to raise those and that might be the deal breaker. The mortgage payment reserve, what is that for? Well, we're going to hold some of your mortgage payments in reserve for 3 to 6 months. What is the approval of nonprofit agency?
Excuse me. Do y'all know why you want to do that? If you're buying an uninhabitable property, I wouldn't recommend doing this if you don't have to. But you can, if you can afford to in a transaction, you can take up to 6 months worth of mortgage payments and put them in the deal so that your mortgage can be paid for you, so you don't have to pay a rent where you're currently living and the mortgage over a long period of time if your deal doesn't result in you being able to move out of where you're at, in a timely manner. I'm sorry, say it again. Well,
you putting that money up, so it's not lessening anything. You putting that money up in terms of your escrow. It's almost like adding to your down payment.
Actually, that does go into that whole amount of escrow. So if you got the extra money to do it, fine. But the one thing I would let you know is that money that you're spending for that 2 months that you're not in there, you're going to be paying interest on it for 30 years. So only do it if you need to.
Right. And here's the other thing, though. Here's the other thing. That's why when you know you 80% getting ready to close, you better be starting getting them permits. You better start getting those permits and get ready for this thing to explode on you. Because when you sitting around paying mortgage and you just waiting on permits, you didn't set yourself up correctly. So be prepared for those sort of things. The holdback is when the contractor's working. He had a draw for $60,000 coming. The bank is going to hold back 10% of that. So his draw is only going to be $54,000. So that's all he's going to get rather than the 60. So that's a holdback. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Anybody got any questions so far? Okay, so this is the maximum amount loan limits, and these for the regions that you cannot exceed. So I'm going to come over here, but basically, these things change annually, sometimes every 2 years, sometimes every 3 years, based on the neighborhood you live in. So if you rehab in a single-family home in California versus rehabbing a single-family home in Illinois, California may have $600,000 that you can do a single-family with. Illinois, Chicago may be only at, what, 450?
Right, I think it's 472 or something now.
472.
472 is the max mortgage in Chicago.
So it varies per region where you're going to go to, and then we can go from there. Melanie?
We have a message from online. We have people that are watching online.
Okay.
Can you see what they said?
Yeah.
This is from Arnold Bradford. As a former inspector, trainer, general contractor, building tech, and appraisal instructor, I can attest to the facts in this presentation.
Go ahead, Mr. Dan. I just love myself. Thank you for that, Melanie. You know, education is key. When I got in this business, I'm going to tell you what happened to me. Vince Laguerre came to me, he said, Dan, I got your first 203K for you. He dropped me off in Bronzeville, and it was a 2-story gray stone. He said, okay, I need the numbers. Can you get them for me by tomorrow? By tomorrow? My first 203, guess how long it took me to get that scope of work? Anybody want to take a wild guess? A week? 2? Damn near a month. Excuse me, Lord. I'm like, how am I supposed to know what do these people want? But guess what I didn't have at that time? My rules of thumb. Seen all the windows. I seen the kitchen. My rule of thumb, you getting 16 linear feet of kitchen cabinets. That's the average kitchen. The average bathroom is 6 by 8. 3 fixtures, unless somebody want a bidet, and be 4. You know, they got men bidets now too now. That's some other stuff. But they got them. One's for a man, one for a woman. You figured it out. We ain't gonna get into all of this. It's a 203K. This is a family show. So I promise I wasn't gonna act up today. So this stuff is very, very important. You got to start developing. This the market you're going to be in. When he dropped me off in there, I'm like, Vince, I can't figure this out. And before I got in this business, guess what I did? Before I became a 203K HUD consultant, because I wanted to see where I was going to fit in at. I called every HUD consultant in the state of Illinois. This is no lie. I called every last one of them. And to a man, they said this to me. All downstate in Carbondale, all down there near Cairo and all this other stuff. They had one thing to say. These people from HUD is crazy as hell if they think I'm going to waste all my time trying to figure this stuff out. But once I start studying, I can come out there and give you a scope of work in about 2 hours, where it took me almost a month before. Because guess what I got? I got what? I got some rules of thumbs. And guess what? The banks, well, Danny, I got a tough one for you. Can you get out there? You know I'm going to be in the F-150, right? So you know when I get there in the F-150 what I'm going to need. We're going to need a check. Miss Steele, I love her to death. She know, we got to get that check. And she was working with me at one point, and then she left off a job one time and didn't have a check in her hand. I said, you know those are grounds for dismissals, right? But anyway, you got to develop your rules of thumb. Her son is getting into business, and I'm just trying to help them develop their rules of thumbs. And once you do that as a contractor, once you do that as a real estate agent, once you do that as a lender, do lenders got to get in and start figuring some of this stuff out? You sure do, Crown Mortgage. I already know I'm wasting my time right here. I got 2 deals over here I need to put my time to. I'm wasting my time over here. Mike Daniels, you going to have people run around there? Okay, I got to knock the wall out. I want to do this 203K. Well, hold up. Let me do one thing before we go any further. I'm finna call and put Mr. Morgan on speakerphone as we had this conversation, and I'm gonna say no HGTV, no walls, no nothing, and we just gonna keep that moving. Y'all with me on that? You gotta get them off that HGTV clip. Anybody got any questions?
I got a question. Are there any situations where you can move a wall and not be intensive?
Not in the city of Chicago. You move that wall, we want a plan. And guess what? Are all walls bearing walls? No, they are not. You can have what's called a partition wall. Generally, joists go east to west. It goes side to side from your home. Everybody with me on that? So if you got a wall that's going the same way, that's called a partition wall. A wall that goes perpendicular to that is a bearing wall. So even if you want to knock that partition wall down, you need architectural exhibits. Now, Have I done projects without permits before? Y'all didn't hear me say nothing, but I have. But was I wrong for doing it? Not really. Because I knew what I was doing. Boom, boom, boom. And when the guy comes in here, there's no structural issues at play. So I took a chance on that for my own property. But if I'm Dominic's HUD consultant or I'm his contractor, Dominic, you gotta get some drawings. If I'm Lolita's general contractor, well, then you're gonna do that because Lolita is not gonna get the sticker, just her house, but the contractor is gonna get the sticker. And you can take that home and wrap your presents up with her. And contractors are getting slick now. Okay, can you just give me the sticker and I can take it with me? No, we got to put this on your property. It's your scarlet letter. We're going to give you the sticker, brother. I seen a guy take a single family home and it's right there on Saginaw, right at 77th and Saginaw. And he done went up 3 stories and did all sorts of things. He done made the single family the 6th unit. And I'm doing my son's house at the same time. I'm like, how is this happening? This guy's moving at the speed of light. What am I doing wrong? Guess what I was doing wrong? Nothing. It was he who was doing stuff wrong. And guess what he got for a present? It's there right now. If you can drive by there, you'll see it with your own eyes. It looked good too. That sticker looks good. It's fading a little bit, but the property, he was moving, and I couldn't understand it. I'm doing something wrong. I'm like, told my son, dude, what are we doing? We found out. Yes, Miss Steele. Mike, hold on. These are some great questions, by the way.
Thank you. When you're getting your architectural designs and you work with an architect that can self-certify, does that speed up your process, or is that only at a certain amount that he can do that?
She thinks she up in here just running up in there so smart. Can I use a certifying architect? She probably heard me say that. You know what? You don't want to do a 203K without a certifying architect. You just don't want to do it. You're going to speed up the process at least 6 to 8 months using a certifying architect. Because guess what a certifying architect does? They give you your permit. That's what they do. They are certifying that all of this stuff. They're going to vet your contractor too. They're going to make sure he ain't got no liens, he ain't got this. Certifying architect is the way to go. How do I know that? Because I had this guy that was referred to me. He was sitting at my kitchen table. I got me and my son taking pictures of us, pulling the drawings back, looking real slick. And this guy told me to take these plans, go down to the city, they're going to give you your permits. And the guy from the city looked at me and he said, if you don't get your, what's this right? I said, I need my permits. He said, who told you that? I gave him the name, and he told me that guy not even allowed to come down here. And I sat there for 4 months with a ladder at the top of my house waiting on a certifying architect to straighten this mess out. And I told the guy, you gave my money back, man. He said, well, I don't got all the money to get back to you. You better go in your grandkids' endowment because I need my bread because I'm going to tell on you. But I learned I did. But I learned my lesson, and that's why we in this class. That's why I made sure my son had a certifying architect. And that's how we can get down in the process. Don't do it without a certifying architect. Don't do it without a HUD consultant. Don't do it without, now, does anybody in here ever work with a certified 203K contractor? Has anybody ever worked with him? A certified 203K contractor. Anybody ever heard of a certified 203K contractor? Well, if you did hear about it, it's called an urban legend. There's no such thing. HUD does not certify contractors. When you go get them to work for you, you certify them, but HUD certainly ain't. There's no such thing. Yes.
The lender certifies contractors for each individual thing, each individual job. So let's say I used.
Let me stop him right there. The lender is not certifying a contractor. The lender is underwriting the contractor's credentials.
Sorry, vetting the contractor.
He's vetting the contractor.
The only advantage that you would have is if you went to the same lender, the lender would not put you through the same credential check if you did a second loan with that same lender.
And guess what they're vetting? They ain't asking him to send no pictures. They vetting his insurance is valid. They're vetting that he has a general contractor's license. That's what they're vetting. They're vetting his liquidity of what he got money in his bank to start this project. That's what they're vetting. Are they vetting that he know how to do roofs? No. Are they vetting that he's a really, really good drywall guy? No. They ain't vetting none of that. That's what the HUD consultant is there for. And I'm not even supposed to do it, but I love vetting contractors. Baby, me and Dominique did a job together. I got fired. I was the happiest man in the world. Mr. Morgan, you don't know what you're talking about. Because my husband, he do this kind of work with his uncle all the time. And the contractor who's doing the work with his uncle, baby, stay away from him. Because they got questionable fixes. They can use an extension cord and some silver aluminum wire, and they'll rewire your can lights. I get up in there in the ceiling and ain't got no wire going into no box or nothing. And you got your crib looking real good, and soon when they get here, when the friction builds up, you get ready for your fire. Because it's coming. Everybody with me on that? Questionable handyman fixes, we want to get you away from that. So the bank is going to vet the contractor, and Mr. Morgan is really going to give him the vetting. Because soon I start talking to that contractor, and he go to, and I'm going to light him up. I love doing it too, because it's either me or him. But as a HUD consultant, I'm a general contractor. I work with these people, and I make sure, who's my client? John USA, John Doe, Jane Doe. That's who I work for, and the contractor better be on top of his game. Otherwise, he's not getting a draw. It's just that simple. Let me go back real quick. Purchase. The maximum mortgage amount is based on the lesser below the multiplied appropriate LTV. Mr. Bailey can talk about that.
Can I say one quick thing? 203K loan has one distinct advantage when you're doing it. The property can underappraise by 10% and the deal will still go through. That's something really big, especially let's say you found a property and you might have like a $300,000 property and it maybe underappraises by $10,000. Well, do a $20,000 203K loan and keep it rolling.
And what he's basically saying, if the property appraises at $300,000, you can go up to $330,000.
Or if your loan is $300, you can go down to $270. I mean,
you can go up
to. The value could be $270.
Exactly. So you can add another 10% to that loan. Again, what's our rule of thumb as a real estate agent? Go get the client and then do what? And then call me. But the first thing you do, you run a comp. Soon as your client said this the address, you run a comp. And if you really want to show off, you can call the local building department and check for code violations. If you really want to look slick with your client. And so what does that do for your client? You're going to get referrals just on those two things that you did. Soon as your client gives you the address, run a excuse me. Soon as your client gives you the address, do a comparable market analysis. Second thing you do, check for code violations. Third thing you do, what you do the third thing? Anybody know? Call Dan. Mike, he gets an extra piece of chicken at dinner. You got to call me. Don't try to do it yourself because y'all knew, just like you knew in Christ, you knew. You just got to call Dan. And then we're going to work together going over all the verbiage. I'm going to ask you a few definitions, and boom. Miss Russell back there in the back, we be fighting all the time with her client. Miss Adams right here in the front, we be fighting all the time, and I just love it. Me and Mike used to fight. Mike don't love me no more like he used to, though. Mike Mensa, that's my man back there. Me and Mike had a client that did about 4 inspections before he found him a crib, before he found him a house. Let me quit using slang, colloquial. I would call it. But so this thing, it's not an easy deal that we're doing here. So anyway, we were talking about the value as is and stuff like that. Just do your research. Knowing your definitions and making sure your client know what's going on. And this is your time to be very, very impressive. Okay, ma'am, we're going to run your market analysis. Then I'm going to get on the phone with Mr. Morgan. We went through the property. We got bathrooms we know we got, and so on and so forth. Let's get some basic information. So the comps in the area, 200,000. Person buying a property for 140. What's their renovation budget? One more time. The comps in the area, 200,000. They all laid out. So the comps is 200,000. The acquisition cost is 140. What's their renovation budget? $60,000. Can we go over the $60,000? You can add 10%.
It's not $60,000 because we got to take out for that contingency reserve. So we probably want to lower it by 10 or 15.
No, but what I mean by that, that's all we working with. So we got to put the contingency, everything in that little bag. For that $60,000. Mr. Bailey's fees, the contingency fee. So the renovation budget probably gonna go down to about $48,000. Everybody with me on that? So the stuff adds up real quick. So you gotta be very, very mindful of those sort of things. But as an agent, when we work together, do a couple of them, you're gonna I'm a pro now. And I'm gonna send you on out there. You're gonna be like Kung Fu with your tattoos on your arm, touching the pot and lifting it up, and then the cave door gonna open. That's how y'all gonna be all like Kung Fu. Y'all gonna be like Kane. Refinancing, we talked about the refinance the existing debt on the property before the rehabilitation plus the estimated cost of rehabilitation and the allowable closing costs or the lesser of the as-is value. Some of the allowable fees on these loans, permits, architectural fees, HUD consultant fees, mileage. Those are the things that goes in with your loan. We got to account for those fees. Everybody with me on that?
Reinspection fees. Reinspection fees.
We got a question right here. You can pay anything you want out of pocket.
The first thing you want to pay out of pocket is your contingency reserve, but you can't pay part of it. If you can pay all your contingency reserve out of pocket, that would allow you to go up on the budget. Or the other reason you want to pay the contingency reserve out of pocket, let's say it's $20,000. That's $20,000 that you don't have that's inflating your loan if you don't use it. So, it's a couple of reasons to do that. But if you paid it out of pocket, you can use that to increase your.
Okay, expenses that's eligible fees, part of your rehabilitation, mortgage payments, 6 months, the expenses related to the rehabilitation permits, inspection fees, qualified inspectors. Now, real quick, when I do my HUD consultant work, those fees, if you paid me, the HUD consultant, that comes out of your fees that you got to pay at closing. In addition, the inspection is not. So if you sitting here and you getting things inspected, that doesn't do anything for your down payment. I'm doing the inspection, and people say, well, why? My lender told me I don't need to get an inspection since I'm getting a HUD consultation. Wrong answer. Now, most people say, well, I ain't got all that money, Mr. Morgan. I'm just like Progressive. I'll bundle sometimes. If I charge $600 for an inspection, then I may charge you $300 because I got to do your write-up as well. And I know people, money is tight, but if I don't have the golf trip to go on, then I'll give you a discount. If the golf trip is coming up, then maybe not, maybe, I don't know. And by the way, I won second place the other day playing golf, so y'all blow me up. So you want to make sure we telling people the right stuff. Mr. Earl Bailey is notorious for saying, well, don't worry about that. He'll just give you the inspection too. I'm like, Earl, why you tell him that? Well, who gonna pay? But the inspection is due. Why is there inspection? Because your contractor might have got in there and got in your ear and told you, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. but now he didn't notice the termite damage. The contractor don't know nothing about HUD minimum property standards. There's 35 of them. I got to address all 35 minimum property standards. Why am I feel like I'm going to fall off the edge right here? I got to examine all of those minimum property standards and make sure there's no egregious items. Leaky roof, bad gutters. When you got weeds growing in your gutters, do I got to address that? Folk, anybody? If you getting ready to buy a house and weeds are growing in your gutters, guess what you're going to probably have in your basement? Water, and what else you going to have? What called, when you got water, what else you got next?
Settling.
Uh-oh. Say it again, Mr. Young. Mr. Daniels. Who else saying mold? This guy, he's slick. He did the alligator arm raise, hand raise. Well, let me tell y'all something right now. I bet not never hear y'all talk about the word mold. Well, I ain't buying this house because the house got mold. Has it been independently tested for mold? I want my money back because my inspector said it was mold down there. You're gonna lose your money. Because if a seller is gonna get savvy, you tell me you backing out the deal because of mold, and you ain't got it tested, then it ain't mold. It ain't mold unless ProLab or independent laboratory say it's mold. But what word I want y'all to use as real estate agents, everybody with me on this? Fungi. Come on with me. Fungi. Like growth. That's the code word. They got mold.
Excuse me. Are you saying that things that look like mold aren't mold, or
no?
Or you just need to be tested before you say it?
Tell them what that is, y'all. That's fungi-like growth until otherwise noted. Don't be running around and tell me I want my money back because we got mold. And that's black stuff all on the wall. That might just be dirt. Where's mold? It is not mold per your inspection. And I'm as an inspector, I'm running around, ma'am, you got mold. You better back out of this deal. Well, who's your inspector? Because I'm suing him. He just bought my house. I don't use that word mold. What if they say you got termites? Oh, they got a lot of termites from one end of the house to the next. It is not termites. Y'all say it with me. It's evidence of wood-destroying insects. Y'all with me? One more time. Evidence of wood-destroying insects. It is not what? It is not termites. When does it become termites? When it gets inspected for termites. Well, you brought your uncle down there and he got his little short cigar in his mouth. Yeah, you got termites. Y'all ain't getting no money back. You're going to lose your earnest money. You got to start using terms that we got in these books now. It is wood-destroying insects, and termite and mold is fungi life growth. Put that in your new glossary, agents. Well, we better back out of this deal because we got a lot of mold and got a lot of termites. Is that a bad thing, though? I bought a house over on Yates. It had fungi life growth all over the house. Let it be tested for mold, and I had termites from one end to the next. Did I buy that house? I certainly did. I don't want no deal. I want to steal. So I bought that house. I made $85,000 off of it, and it was ready to go in about 3 weeks. I'm making informed decisions. Already know how to remediate it. Already know how to straighten out that wood. I'm going to tear it out and just put some new wood there. I'm a carpenter. So don't be running around here, oh, I'm going to leave this deal because it got termite and mold. You might have walked out on $100,000. You might just you better watch what you're doing and build your team and make informed decisions. What kind of decisions you got to make? Informed decisions. Gather all your data, and per all the gathering, let's pull a trigger on this deal with all your mold, fungi life growth, and your wood-destroying insects, termites. Let's get this deal done. Everybody with me on that? Now, if you got a seller that's playing hardball with you, you're going to tell them, I'm going to tell on you. This probably mold, and the seller, once it's determined that there's mold at that residence, he don't want that because that mold follows that address. So anybody, if you kill a deal, he still got to address that mold. And now he got to have a remediation certificate. Same thing with termites. He got to have a remediation certificate. So you can play hardball with that. Look, I want this house, but this is all I'm giving you. And it's a difference between $10,000. Well, if you don't give me the house for what I want it for, I'm going to tell on you that I want a mold inspection. I want a termite inspection. Y'all follow me on that? It's a negotiating tactic. I do it all the time. You can use it with anybody who's going to listen to you. But if you sit up there mumbling and stumbling and you don't know no definitions, is the bank going to listen to you? This guy's a mumbler and a stumbler, and nobody want to hear what you got to say. I used to tell my kids all the time, you got to become articulate. If I tell you, Mr. Daniels, to go over here, and when you get to that lady's house with the red dress and she got a rooster on the front porch, make a right turn. And after you make that right turn, you will see a little boy driving a little 3-speed bike, and then go past the alley and then make a right turn and go over 350 feet, and then you'll see a girl with some Daisy Dukes on, and then that's where the house is. Are those clear directions? Now I'm going to give you clear directions. Can be verbal, nonverbal, or written. Real quick, Mr. Dominic. Y'all see those nonverbal communications? I told him to stand up and I told him to turn around. But those directions was clear. Now, if I'm telling you all this other stuff, anybody know where they do nonverbal communication at all the time? It's at the airport. And if they get it wrong, you gave me the wrong signal, and the planes are crashing. So become articulate agents. Quit mumbling and stumbling, and come with some clarity here. Okay? These are people's houses, hundreds and thousands of dollars about to be lost because you articulate. And then you're going to blame it on the HUD consultant because you ain't ready for the sale. Y'all got me on that? Become articulate. Okay, so here's what any contractors in the house. I told contractors to be here. This is what contractors go wrong at on making money on a 203K. You see those last two? The overhead and the construction profit. They never put that in their quote. But I have people ask me, Mr. Wong, what's this $8,000 for? Oh, that's my overhead. And this is my construction profit. And guess what the other line item is that most people miss, is the taxes. So your material costs $45,000. What's the taxes on that? About $5,000. They just lost $5,000 because they don't got that in their scope of work. That's where the deals go bad at, and the contractor's ready to run off on you because he didn't put in there the construction profit. He didn't put in there for his overhead running back and forth to Home Depot. He didn't put his tax money in there. Therefore, he got a problem.
Excuse me. How come that's not just a benefit to the buyer?
Well, here's the thing. Why the buyer say, I got to pay some more money. Well, don't you want your project to get finished? Let's deal with the numbers, what they are. So the benefit that you telling the buyer all that's required of them in terms of for me to do this project for you, whether than him and then Han. And if you do a great scope of work, the contingency reserve don't even supposed to be touched because you did a great job. Now, if the walls are still up, only thing you're going to have unforeseen is maybe some wood-destroying insects. Other than that, you shouldn't have anything unforeseen to come screw you around. And then you got a client that's talking about, well, I ain't making no money here. You know, this thing is going crazy and you overcharging me. No, we're going to make sure that we got everything we need up front. FHA 203K regulations allow waivers, requests of the market value limitations. That means basically that allow appraisals to go outside that 1 mile radius because your whole block is being renovated. So we'll allow for a special appraisal to give you an accurate market value. Where those things take place, where they rebuilding neighborhoods at. 79th Street corridor, 75th Street corridor, 71st Street corridor. We got to go outside of the 1 mile radius. And if we're doing things like in Roseland, and the city saying this is a TIF zone, we're going to rehab about 20 houses in this area, they got to go outside. We got to get some real live comps. in order for us to generate a real renovation budget. Let's talk about this solar energy. Here's the thing that most people don't know. If you buying a house and you saying, I'm just going with a completely new solar system, and guess what? We got your budget at $100,000. You know, we can add $20,000 to your budget because you want to use solar equipment, and it's not going to affect your bottom line on the mortgage. Here's one thing I'll tell you. Most lenders don't know how to do that, but you really want to get qualified to do that as a lender, to understand the energy efficiency program, because you can add $20,000 to, and it doesn't affect. So say, for instance, a client can't go over $110,000. But if he has this solar energy increase, he can go over by more than that $110,000 when he was all in. Probably take that deal up to about $130,000 because it's solar and we're getting away from the fossil fuel. And so just do a sidebar. You can talk to me about that. Okay, energy efficient mortgage program under the FHA EEM program. A borrower can finance into the mortgage 100% of the cost of eligible energy efficient improvements. Most people who got a masonry house, I would suggest to you to go with 90% furnaces. Why do you want to do that? So you can get rid of your chimney. The chimney is one of the major causes of water intrusion on masonry products, masonry houses. And if you're a young lady or a young man, that right there will cripple you, the masonry costs of repairs to those sort of things. The parapet wall and the chimney, you want to try to get that thing under control because that's where most of your water intrusion is going to occur. Anybody have any questions so far? Water intrusion, negative slopes. If you go into a house, we at this house, and the sidewalk is going straight down and then the walls are going up. What if you got weeds growing down on the side of that house? Anybody know what that's indicative of? Water intrusion. That means you probably got some busted pipes under your house. That right there is a very, very expensive fix. Probably can cost you 10 grand. And the fix ain't hard. The dig is what they're going to charge you for. They're going to charge at least 8 grand just to dig it up. But the fix probably take you 2 hours to fix it. But the dig is the problem because the dirt is full of water and then it becomes clay. And it's a shovel full of clay dirt weigh about 60 pounds. Trust me, I've been there, done that. You don't want to be bothered with that one. So I'm going to let Mr. Bailey talk about this. Rates and points paid are not regulated and negotiated between the borrower and lender.
So that's the same as just a regular loan. The rate that you negotiate is whatever the rate is at the time. 3 months ago, the rate's 6 months ago, the rate's a lot different than it is now. So discount points are regulated. I think it's either 1.5% up to I think it's $1,500. So that's going to be part of any transaction. It's called a supplemental origination fee, and that's financed in with your money. That's why that's part of the difference between the $30,000 and the $35,000 when we were talking about the 203K streamline. So in general, you should expect your interest rate on a 203K loan to be about a quarter point higher than a regular loan because it's a specialty product. The lender has to do things after the fact, like manage your escrow and do payouts and things doing it. So because it's a specialty product, the interest rate is usually a little bit higher than it is on a regular loan.
Okay, so the borrower can have an independent consultant help them prepare the architectural exhibits. And basically, I'm just going to go over your drawings that you currently have and make sure this project is doable. Before I go any further, I see a friend of mine in the back. Can she stand up? Ms. Starks. This young lady right here, I want y'all to just give her a hand real quick. Can y'all just give her a hand? This young lady is the reason why I'm up here today. I was in the middle of a life-changing event, and I lost my job as a substitute teacher over at a high school, and she came out of nowhere. I remember what she had on to this day. And she said, I don't care if he's going to teach the kids how to sew. He's finna come work for me. And I've never had anybody put that kind of commitment into me. And so they brought me into little meetings, and they were talking about actionable items and prepared documents and all these other things. I'm like, what in the hell are they going on up in here? But it was a turnaround team. I learned so much from that. And as a result of that, I've Don Franz, the Ellen Kennedys of the world, the Kenyattas of the world. That's why I'm up here today. And so she means a lot to me, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more at the end of the program. But I just wanted to acknowledge her. She's a very, very powerful young lady, very powerful. And so she's the reason that I'm up here, the reason I can be articulate. She taught, you know, Dan, you got to go to college. I graduated from college in 2014. The old man walking across the stage, I'm just grinning. My hat goes off to that young lady back there. Thank you. The HUD accepted fee consultant. I am a fee consultant. These are the fees. And somebody said, well, Mr. Morgan, how much you charge to come on out here? I don't charge you. HUD makes the fees up, and I just tell you what they are based on the amount of renovation you're going to do. So the fee is not driven by the HUD consultant. The fee is driven by HUD. And it's incrementally, it's a ascending fee, $15,000, $100, $30,000, $200, and that sort of thing. But for me, I'm not charging anybody less than $450, because I ain't trying to be in there $15,000. Well, you owe me $100. Where do you do that at? But I ain't, you know. So and then there's also additional re-inspections. I don't charge for re-inspections. I just go re-inspection. The reason why I don't charge, because most folks look like me. And when you ask God to guide your steps, some things you just I gotta do this for this client. I had a young lady, she wasn't even a young lady, but this lady had somebody come in her house, and I was over there at the time. She went in her cabinets, and the whole cabinet fell down. And I was near tears that somebody came, took advantage of her. I rehabbed that kitchen for free, then charged her one nickel. Not one nickel, because to whom much is given, much is required. That's why, you know, I think God always looks out for me, because it ain't all about the dollars and stuff. It's all about you got these gifts and you got to put them out there in the ethos to get things back. So that's very important. The lender may charge a borrower no more than the actual amount of a lender pays the appraiser. So the lender can't tell you, we're going to charge you $1,500 for appraiser, and it's only a $600 fee. Can't do it. They're going to be in a jumpsuit with you for when you tell them you ain't going to follow the rules. So you and your lender, y'all going to be in there, y'all going to be sellies. I couldn't help that. Oh, behave. Okay, the lender may include the appraisal fee in the closing costs, and most of them do. Okay, so I want the young lady in the red with the red glasses to ask me a question right now. Did I just put her on the spot? You know why I did that, right? Because you're from Hammond. You from Indiana. Just ask me a question related to our topic here today. Give it a mic, Dan.
Thank you. We've answered pretty much.
I'll ask a question on her behalf.
Oh.
No, she almost had it. Go ahead.
So, because I am from Indiana, how is the process for getting the
property?
To, I guess, getting like you, a person that is over the project, and the vendors, how does that differ in Indiana from Illinois?
Let me tell you how it differs. There is no difference.
Okay.
It's the exact same thing.
Well, because I know in Chicago you have to do, like you all were saying, you need to get your permits and
Same thing for Indiana.
We just don't work, so we're faster.
You are faster, but you still got to get a permit.
Oh yeah.
You gonna get your permit faster, but you are faster, but you still got to do the exact same thing. Okay, and it's very, very, it was incumbent upon you guys to do this thing the right way. you're going to have great outcomes. I love great outcomes.
I think maybe part of what you wanted to say is different municipalities have different building standards. So what you might have to do for the city of Chicago, you do something different.
Not so. Okay. Let me tell you why it's not so. The only difference is you got to use conduit in Chicago and you can use BX in Indiana. But you're still rewiring the house, right? Mm-hmm. You can use PEX piping in Indiana, but you got to use copper in Illinois, Chicago. But you still got to put that new piping in there, right? The building material matters not. It's just how you got to go about it. You still can't close those walls up without that PEX and without that BX being inspected before you close your walls up.
And I still can't take that wall down.
Can't take that wall down unless you get architectural exhibits outlining how the wall is coming down. It is not load bearing, so on and so forth. Got me? Okay. So I love. So you got a question? Her partner? She said he better not call me. She gave me that look, like I ain't gonna call her neither. I'm gonna call Upenda. Give me a question. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the contractor. This is called ask the contractor. What are 3 things you're gonna make sure you got on your estimates from now on? Give me the mic there. You gonna what now?
Your overhead, your contingency costs, and your profit margin.
Okay, he's close. He got 2 out of 3. Taxes.
And taxes, that's right.
Taxes. Got to take that. Crown Mortgage, you on the spot. Ask me a question.
Okay, if the buyer does the work on the property, can he count that as the part of the down payment? So sweat equity?
Self-performing. We talked about that earlier. Most banks frown on the self-performing. And you guys, even if you're going to be doing it?
Oh, we do it.
You do self-performing?
No, yes. What we do sweat equity.
Okay.
Okay, we don't do 203Ks yet, so we're just getting into that. But
so,
we do sweat equity.
So per the 203K, they're going to pay you for material only. Mm-hmm. So say, for instance, you got $30,000 worth of drywall, and your drywall costs $8,000 to do that $30,000 job.
Right.
So all they're going to give you for your drywall line item is $8,000. So they're not going to give you the $22,000 labor. Then that's where you're going to run into your problem at. So here's the thing about it is, here's your little drywall money, but that's it. So that's why I frown on it when you can get your labor and your drywall, and you trying to scuffle to do $22,000 worth of labor putting in drywall. So I'm going to say you should push the client away from the sweat equity and the self-performing of the work. Mm-hmm. I would kind of tell a client, don't do that, because it's going to slow your project down, and chances are he's going to be filing extension after extension.
Another reason lenders kind of frown on that, because if you're a contractor by trade and you spend, like you said, the equivalent of $22,000 worth of hours drywalling, that might cut into your profit margin on your regular job and make you less likely to be able to pay your mortgage.
That's true.
Okay. All right.
They mostly wind up in a disaster. I'm going to ask Mr. Young a question. That's the top-notch handyman in the building.
You asking a question?
No, you are asking the question, young man. I'll ask a question on his behalf. Can handyman do these jobs for 203K? If he's properly licensed, he can. And he's more than likely going to get licensed in the municipality where he's doing the work. So you go get your license, you can go do the work.
Question.
Yes.
If you qualify for a C or an S corp, that's a state qualification.
That's a federal qualification.
Federal, okay.
Right.
So does that qualify you to do at work?
No, that's just your business designation. That's all that is. but it's not your license designation. Some people got an E class, D class, F class license, and that's the amount of renovation you can do. 300,000, 500,000, that's what your class designation. But the S Corp LLC has nothing to do with a renovation loan. Now, that's your business model. That's your business status. That's your business class. I'm a S corporation or I'm a C corporation.
So local licensing applies.
Local license apply per municipality. So I'm licensed in the city of Chicago, but I want to go do some work in South Holland. Do I got to go get a license in South Holland? I certainly do. Not only do I got to get a license, I got to get a bond, a surety bond guaranteeing that I can do that work. So Chicago you don't have to have a bond. But if you go to municipality, the suburbs and things like that, they can do you got to have a bond. If I'm working in South Holland and I'm getting ready to put another addition on top of my house, making it a 2-story, can I do that in South Holland? No, I cannot. South Holland said we don't want no 2 stories, no 2 flats in South Holland. Anybody seen a 2 flat in South Holland before? I don't think they exist. So you got to be mindful about the municipality where you plan on doing your work. You done bought the house and say, I'm finna blow this up, and you ain't did your homework. You making an uninformed decision. That ain't cool. Okay? Ms. Steele. Okay. Okay.
Just want to go back to the qualifying of the 203K loan. I know you said it's pretty much the same guidelines as any other loan, but what is the sweet spot for as relates to credit scores when we are talking with clients and they say, I want to do a 203K loan?
Okay. So 99% of the time, your 203K loan is exactly the same as a regular FHA pre-approval. The only difference is that your FHA pre-approval for a $200,000 house is for a $200,000 purchase price, and your $200,000 203K loan is for the $140,000 plus the $60,000 renovation, going back to that example Dan gave. So my general rule of thumb, without actually giving a specific 203K pre-approval to a client, is start off with using 80% of what the FHA pre-approval was for your down payment, for your purchase price and your renovation, and we can work out the details once we find out a little bit more about what the actual renovation part entails. So if you got if it's a $200,000 pre-approval, we assume that you got 160, 165 to play with. You might have more, but we need to figure out how much renovation, like if you're going to have a 10 or 20% contingency, makes a big difference in that.
What credit score do they need to have?
I would say probably 620, like a guaranteed rate, 620, 600 on an exception basis. I would say, like, if you got a 640, you good to go. It's and I'm pretty sure the computer that actually approves your loan doesn't scrutinize you anymore because you're doing a 203K loan. So essentially, if you have an FHA approval, you have a 203K approval. It's just going to be for a little bit less money.
Right. All 203Ks, unless it's a streamline, 5 draws. So what I do, you got a $200,000 renovation. $200,000 renovation. You got 5 draws. What should each draw be? Anybody know? You're only getting 5. $40,000 at least. And I'll tell you the reason why. I push contractors to adhere to that. Because they just, I put down the floors, can I get a draw? I just painted, can I get a draw? No. And I'm just going to tell you no. But you got 5 draws. If you exceed those 5 draws, somebody got to pay for those out of their pocket. And that's putting the client in a bind. So I want everybody to at least give me some $40,000 worth of work and keep that moving. Yes, Dominique.
The question would be, so if they were already qualified for FHA, so if I had a client who was qualified, say $300,000 on the FHA, and there was a house they wanted, but the house had peel and paint, so they could just switch that over to 203K if the seller is not willing to do any renovation.
Just like that.
Right, and that's actually good because you could probably negotiate a whole lot more for that off the purchase price of that peel and paint than you would if the house didn't have peel and paint.
Right.
So like I say, if you got some, like let's say you got all the houses in the neighborhood selling for $300,000, but your house roof about to fall in, other than that's a good house. How much of a discount do you get on that house for the roof falling in? $50,000, but it costs you $15,000 to fix.
Right, exactly. So again, we got to be mindful of those draws. Additional inspections are required by the lender to ensure satisfactory compliance with the exhibits. So somebody got to pay for that out of their pocket, and so we want to be mindful of that. To protect the validity of the mortgage position from the mechanics liens on the property, reasonable fees charged by a title company can be included as a liable cost for rehabilitation. And that right there is a very, very interesting tidbit. The validity of the mortgage position from the mechanics lien. For me, when you ain't paying me the way I'm putting a lien on your house as soon as I can. As soon as I get off the job, get out the F-150, I'm trying to put a lien on your house. Because I'm telling folk, I don't want to be bothered with Diane Burns used to be the Channel 7 news person, the guy doing floors for her. She fell out with the guy for $30,000 worth of floors. She living in a $1 million plus 5 mansion. She said the wood doesn't match. Marble don't match. Each individual piece of marble don't match, and each individual piece of wood by looking at this hardwood floor. It's a natural product. So she said, I'm not going to pay the contractor. The contractor say, well, get ready for the mechanics lien. She lost. Plus she had to pay some punitive damages. So you got to be mindful of telling people, I ain't paying you. When you tell me you ain't paying me, I get very, very upset.
Can I say that's one good reason to have a consultant, even if you're just doing a small job, for a couple of reasons. Number one is the contractor might not know all of the 203K things, and he might not have included that, so that's going to cost you at minimum a home inspection and a rewrite of some of the documents. And then if you do have a falling out with the actual contractor, you don't like something, you have two experts talking, so that doesn't necessarily put you in a bad light, because he could tell you if the contractor is right or if the contractor is wrong. Like you said, he could talk the contractor's language and probably get it resolved a lot faster, because the contractor can't pull the wool over an expert's eye.
When you're doing a class project, you don't have to know all the information. You just need to go, I need to go to my encyclopedia, or I need to go to my dictionary to look up a word. Just go to your HUD consultant and look stuff up. My mother and my brother is in here. This is my mom and my brother, Jairus and Queen. That's the queen right there, y'all. So it's a blessing. So you got to be mindful of what you're doing. There's my sister, Frida. Raise your hand. Hi. And Mr. Freeman. That guy right there, don't never go play golf with that guy right there, because he got holes in his pocket. That's an inside joke, but anyway. I digress. Application process, the home buyer locates the property. Preliminary feasibility analysis, that's a phone call with Mr. Morgan. Sales contract executed, home buyer selects mortgage lender, that's Mr. Bailey. Consultant prepares work write-up, cost estimates, that's Dan Morgan. Lender requests a HUD case number, I put that on your file. A fee consultant visit the property. That means I'm visiting the property, get ready, get your checkbook out, because I'm coming from a fee. The appraiser performs the appraisal. That's another fee. Get your checkbook out. Lender reviews application. Once the lender reviews your application, they issue a conditional commitment statement of appraisal value, and then the lender issues a firm commitment. At that time, I suggest y'all go get y'all permits. Soon the lender tell you it's a go get your permit, and then you get ready for your closing. Types of eligible improvements, any repairs, improvement, modification, modernization, adding value to and or improved property are acceptable for a 203K loan. Mr. Bailey.
The one thing that you always be minded of, that you can't make luxury improvements, things like a hot tub.
A swimming pool.
And a swimming pool. Those are my two big things. And like freestanding properties unless it's a garage.
I getting ready to do a 203K for Miss Steele right there, and she wanted a pool and a hot tub put in her condo. I say, no, Miss Steele, you can't have those things. I'm just exaggerating. She didn't say that. Okay, the improvement must comply with HUDs. This is 35 on minimum property standards in all local codes and ordinance. What does that mean to you all? In a nutshell, the minimum property, are there flaking paint, negative sidewalks, negative slopes on sidewalks, bad roofs, drywall peeling, and that sort of thing. That's part of the minimum property standards. The local codes are, the city told you you ain't keep your property up, you got to cut all the weeds down. All of that stuff got to be in your specifications of repairs to make that house habitable. The minimum property standards, okay? And the type of eligible improvement, like you said, repair and replace roof, gutters, and or downspouts, repair and replace HVAC systems with architectural drawings, repair replacement upgrade of plumbing and electrical, architectural drawings, repair replacement of flooring. You don't need drawings for that. Kitchen remodeling. When you get ready to do a 203K, don't buy the refrigerator and stove, because you financed it for how many years? 30. So you're gonna pay for the refrigerator and stove 8 times. Now, if you got a little, you short on money, I'll buy your stove and I'll just charge you for 15 years worth of interest. So just call me, and if you need me to finance for you, I got a few dollars, I can do that. Weatherization, storm windows and doors. Listen, I want to say this real quick, touch on this, and we're going to be shutting down for a minute, getting ready for questions and dinner and things like that. Weatherizations is key. One little hole in your house like that, even in the summertime, probably costs you $50 a month. You got your cooling escaping, and in the wintertime, you got your heating escaping. Get your house properly sealed. In your attic, you ain't supposed to see no wood in your attic. You're supposed to see nothing but insulation. Your R value in your attic should be 62. Your R value should be 62. The R value in your walls should be at least 22. That's a properly insulated house. And if you got a permit to get the work done, the city gonna stick a stick down in your insulation to determine your R value, the thickness. Most of the time when y'all wanna gut a house and you had 2x4s there at first, you probably gotta use 2x6s to put it back, because a 2x4 is not gonna give you the proper R value for the insulation in your wall, on your exterior walls. So you gotta go with 2x6s. Purchase and installation of appliances, freestanding range, refrigerators, washers, microwaves, and things of that nature. Accessibilities for disabilities, that's big too. City's big on ADA requirements and compliance, repair, replace, and or exterior decking, so on and so forth. Now, when you're getting ready to rebuild a porch, you cannot use Home Depot hardware. Bolts and those little L brackets, the city gonna say the bolts gotta be has a special specification when you bolting down a back porch. And if you don't have those, you done built your porch, he's gonna tell you to take all that out. You're supposed to know better. And it should say that right on your drawings. For electrical, is certain boxes you can't use from Home Depot. You gotta be mindful of that. When you rewind your house, well, I got all these boxes from Home Depot. Well, the inspector's gonna say fail. They don't want them Home Depot boxes. Anybody got a strange reason why? Inferior products. A lot of them got lead and stuff in there. When you go into a municipality, real quick, a municipality can say, hey, Mr. Smith. How you doing? That's one of the contractors in here. It's big time. So when you're getting ready to do, a house, and you out in the suburbs, and then what happens is you saying, well, I got 5 bedrooms. I got 3 upstairs and 2 in the basement. How many bedrooms do you really got? 3. Those other bedrooms are below grade. That ain't flying. And what's going to happen is the fire department, you're going to get a waiver from the fire department saying you waiving the right to say these are bedrooms. Because if a fire break out, we're not responsible. You need egress windows in there. You got to have a way to get out. So if it don't have egress windows in there, it is not a bedroom. It's just your office space. And it's not going to go into the appraisal as 5 bedrooms. So if somebody said, well, you got 5 bedrooms, we're going to do the appraisal for 5 bedrooms. Not going to happen. Everybody with me on that? So don't be in there telling your client they got 5 bedrooms and they got 3 in the basement and 2 upstairs. You got 2-bedroom house. Okay, so the minimum, maximum, 203K streamline, zero minimum, 35,000 is the maximum. FHA 203K standard, 5,000 is the minimum, no preset maximum. Because it varies from municipalities, the maximum is always limited by the lesser of the borrower approval limit by the FHA maximum mortgage limit. It means a lot of stuff, but you can go up to 110% on any improved appraised value. You can do that very, very easily. And oversights and inspections according to HUD for the standard full 203K version, all work must be inspected by a 203K consultant and or a FHA appraiser. Here's how I do it. You saying I'm the contractor and I want to get a check because I done hung your drywall, I done put your electrical in, I done put your HVAC in, I done all of that. And guess what happens? Mr. Morgan, I need a draw. You do. Did the city check your stuff? No. Well, you ain't getting no draw. Because you know why? I don't want the liability. I want to give you some more oversight. If the city didn't check it, then I'm not going to sign off for no draw.
How long did it normally take for the city to come out and check things?
That's up to you and your city. But I know I ain't giving you a check until you do it. Sometimes it can be 2 weeks. Sometimes it can be a month and a half. Whatever it is whatever it is. But whatever it is, when you got that signature on the back of that permit, then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to look it over. Okay, you ready for a draw? I don't need the liability. Well, Mr. Morgan, well, can I just get the draw, man? And then the guy say he's going to be here in 2 weeks. All right, well then, you can go to payday loan. But I ain't getting ready to give you no draw because I don't want the liability. I just don't. That's my rule of thumb, and I ain't doing it. Y'all with me on that?
Also, if it fails,
If it failed, guess what? If it failed and I didn't give him the money, guess what the contractor liable to do? He gone. Bye, Felicia. That's what they're going to tell you. Bye, Felicia. A contingency reserve, 10 to 20% of the repair renovation amount and its purpose. Real quick on that. The 10 to 20%, that comes into play per your utilities. No utilities, we're going to give you the 15 to 20% contingency. Contingent water zone and all that sort of thing, boom, we're going to give you a regular 10% contingency. Y'all with me on that? Why is that important? Because if your water ain't on, I don't even know if the place can drain water. So how am I going to check that? So I need to know that water is on so we can keep your contingency low. And especially for that plumbing, it can get real evil, real quick. The 203K standard for a HUD consultant is required. FHA 203K streamline is not required. However, the bank, that's based on you and your bank. It's not required, but the bank gonna say, well, we're requiring you to have that. And if you ain't got that, you ain't getting no loan. I need a HUD consultant to go in there and check that out. Yes. How would I label them? A draw. Draw number one. Okay, good question. I see where you're going. So say for instance, you got electrical you've done, you've got plumbing you've done, but it's not, you did your rough end, it's not trimmed out. So I'm gonna give you a rough end, I'm gonna give you 40 to 50% of your plumbing budget. You got a plumbing budget of $20,000. So I'll give you 50% of that, I'll give you $10,000 per your signature by the city. Follow me on that? So that's a very good question because most contractors say, well, I need a draw. Can you give me 50%, man? Well, you got one pipe hanging up in there, man. How you got one pipe talking about give me 50%? What are we doing here?
Can I also say one thing? That's where one of like unwritten rules, when you vet a contractor, when you get a contractor to work, have you ever done a 203K? Most of them say, yeah, whether they did it or not. Do you know that you probably won't get any money until you start doing some work and you got to get draws and then, you got to be prepared for that. Do you have the wherewithal to do it? And if they start looking like, what the heck am I getting into, then that might not be the person you want to deal with because everybody can do it because they see $100,000 worth of work. But if it's going to be a $100,000 headache for you, that might not be your best person.
And that's true. But I'll train contractors on how to get that draw. Spend the least amount of money, like say for instance, the dig for the plumbing. I told you that dig is 80% of the job. Go dig that plumbing up, and I'm gonna give you a draw for 60%. You got a plumbing budget of $25,000. I'm giving you 60% of that $25,000. You know, you got the windows in. Go get them windows, man. The windows only gonna cost you $200 at the most, $250. Get them windows in. I'm gonna give you $500 per window. Come on, you gotta learn how to do this thing. Rules of thumbs. Everybody got that rule of thumb, right? From now on, we don't leave out this room until we work with our rules of thumbs. That keeps you focused. Everybody wants to stay focused, right? So, first thing you do an agent, first thing you're gonna do, when the client tell you I found a piece of property, first thing, what now? CMA. You're gonna do your comp. Second thing you're gonna do, you're gonna check for violations. Then what you gonna do after that? They're gonna do what? You're gonna do what? Call Danny. I love that word. And you're gonna tell your client to get ready for what? With what? With the check. Because I see the F-150 coming, and you know Danny gonna want that. He gonna want that check.
But before you do any of that, you know what you need to do? Have a pre-approved borrower from Earl.
Right. Now, whether you get the pre-approved borrower from Earl or not, when the F-150 show up, and you ain't got your pre-approval, is that Danny's problem? What is Danny looking for? Okay, and if you ain't got the check, is Danny gonna be upset? Okay, Danny might turn around and go back the other way. And so is Mr. Wayne right here. I done seen him in action. That's why I know to get the check. I learned it from him.
I have another question. At what point should you be looking for a contractor?
Day one. Get that contractor to me immediately. Why do you want to get that contractor to me immediately? So I can start hacking them up.
Should you start looking, if you're pretty sure you're going to do a 203K loan, is that the best time to start looking for a contractor?
Yep, it is. Soon as you know you're going to do a 203K.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is that a lot of times when a 203K loan doesn't close on time, it's because of issues with the contractor. You got a contractor, he's taking 2 weeks to get the documentation. The reason he's taking 2 weeks to get the documentation because he doesn't have it.
He don't have it.
And then, and then you get one, and then, he does it, he goes in and he tells you what to do, and then Dan tells you, you got to do something else, you got to do it a certain way.
Right.
Because he wants to cut his corners or whatever.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Because they have to use their funds. I got funds to do it, I can go ahead on. But before you do it, call Danny and talk to him and say, hey, is this guy reputable company, should I deal with him? And Danny will tell you, yeah. A lot of people think they can do 203, but they can't. There's only a few of us out here that got the funds that can do you right and do the paperwork, okay?
And that's when I'm right there with the mic.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, but that's all I'm telling you. Before you find a contractor, some banks got preferred lists. Guys they know can do it. I'm one of those guys that can do it and treat you right, you know what I mean? And give you the best quality of service that you want, okay? But a lot of these guys, they will try to cut corners to make a profit, okay? I don't need your profit, I got money, so that ain't a problem. I want to provide quality service for you. But I recommend that you see Danny. Don't call me, call Danny.
That's right. And then we'll call him after that.
He knows the good guys, okay? And he knows the bad guys, okay? So you talk to Danny. Don't call me. Call Danny, okay? All right? Thank you.
HUD does not allow relatives to be contractors. And I think you can think of half the reasons why that wouldn't be a good idea to begin with. And the other half, hard to argue with your relative. Your relative will cut corners on you. You wouldn't think they will, but they will. But HUD does not allow relative to be your contractor.
I don't want to see y'all coming to me, Miss Morgan. I got my uncle, and he got that little short cigar hanging out his mouth, talking about I'm getting ready to get. Tell me what I got to do. No. Yes, Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like you have a client that doesn't have any contractors. Do you have a list of contractors?
Just sidebar, just have them call us.
Have them call us. Okay.
Just have them call.
That's all I want to do.
And lenders do not have recommended lists. I might, I can maybe give your realtor some names, because if I gave you my person that did everything right and then that's the one job he did wrong, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, when your roof is leaking and he repaired your roof,
They call
well,
him a
you
lender.
referred the contract to me, so you're responsible.
And I'm suing you too.
Right.
You named on the lawsuit. Questions, can I do work myself? We answered that question on FHA too. Yes, you can, but it ain't recommended.
And you have to be a license in that field.
Right. Note, borrowers performing their own work can only be paid for the cost of materials, never for the labor. I mean never. That's sweat equity, ain't it? Yep, that's what they do, sweat equity. The mortgage company right here. But I only, for all intents and purposes, I ain't even trying to hear about no sweat equity up in here. They're not doing them. But before we leave here, we're going to have them doing them. And they're going to call Danny, and Danny going to have them on the map. You know, because it's for all neighborhoods and for everybody. Questions, does HUD or FHA require 203K contractors to be certified? No. But they require to be vetted. Everybody with me on that? Ain't no contractor go, the bank, oh, we got some certified 203K contractors. They don't exist. There's no such thing. We can vet you a contractor. Answer, neither HUD nor FHA certifies, approves, or endorse remodeling general contractors. There is no such thing as a remodeling or a general contractor being an FAA-approved contractor for a 203K loan. So when he say that to you, I'm on this 203K list, go the other way. For real, this 203K stuff is very, very serious business. And when you got these people flying by night with the short cigar in their mouth, them the ones you don't want to be around. How does a contractor get involved with the FHA 203K loan program? Having his stuff in order, his insurance in order, being approved, contractor, they can't have any conflicts of interest, can't be your uncle, your granddaddy, your little brother, or anything. There's a lot of that going on. We don't want that. So the answer, no. The draw process, the FHA tool, you only get 2 draws for a streamline. You get a draw down payment of 50%, and then you get the other 50% when you're done. The 203 standard, 4 draws plus the final for payment, no upfront money to offset. Don't get no contract to your money now. Well, I need this money to help get started. No.
I'm sorry. That's one of the reasons where you say you're not going to get any money. While you're dealing with the contractor, keep emphasizing you're not getting any money up front. We're not giving you any money up front. You don't get money until you get a draw. I closed one a week ago, and the borrower called me 3 days after we closed. The contractor wants to know when he can get a draw to get started.
But you can get material fees. You can't get material money, so that's important. The borrower would not incur the fees normally associated with FHA 203K loan. In addition, other costs may include origination fees by the lender, fees charged by the contractor and consultant, estimates, inspections, and re-inspections, slightly higher interest rate, typically 1/4 to 0.5% higher, and is 10%, 20% renovation contingency reserve added to the loan amount. We went over those. Questions, can an investor use 203K? No. Keep it moving.
There is a conventional program where you can't use
The question was, can you use it for a 203K? And the answer is?
No.
No. Thank you. We don't want to hear about the other stuff right now because this ain't that class.
Can you become an owner-occupied landlord? Yes.
Yes.
Up to 4 units.
Exactly. Right. Unless he wants a jumpsuit. Now, if you want the jumpsuit, you can do all those things. Step by step, borrower selects a knowledgeable real estate agent. And I emphasize knowledgeable. Borrower selects FHA approved 203K lender. I suggest you check that out. Borrower applies for the loan. Borrower locates a home. Borrower conducts a feasibility study of the property with the real estate agent and 203K consultant. That would be me, Ms. Steele. That would be me, Ms. Russell, the 2 ladies from Hammond, Mr. Daniels. You can do those things, Mr. Dominique. You can talk to those folks about doing that, but I can do it on the fly. Call me on the phone. We'll do a feasibility study right then and there. You don't qualify for this, keep it moving, go look at another address. Buyer execute the sales contract after we did all that, and we good. And believe me, I do feasibility studies in 5 minutes. Don't waste your time, Danny. Can we do this? No. Give me the numbers. You did the CMA. We got the CMA, and we can make an informed decision. The home buyer borrower should obtain work write-up from me, the HUD consultant, consultants showing the scope of work to be done, including the cost of estimates, repair improvement of the project, and then obtain proposals from certified 203K contractors. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do your write-up, and then we're gonna give you a blank document. You send that out to get it bidded on. You can get it bidded on 10 times. I'm gonna give you the prevailing rate, and if you can get it for cheaper than that, then you can get it for cheaper than that. If not, that's on you. You gotta go with that prevailing rate. Both are, his bid and my write-up gotta say the exact same thing at the end of the day. Then have the appraiser perform the determined after renovation value of the property, and we good to go with that. The HUD approved 203K consultant should provide a feasibility analysis, or 203 consultant or an FHA approved inspector should go through the property and see what we needed there. The 203K loan amount cannot exceed the applicable loan to value ratios, maximum dollar limitation prescribed for similar properties by HUD guidelines, and FHA 203K loans can have renovation funds and escrow and thousands of dollars. To prevent misappropriation of funds, no one involved in the transaction can be related. That's called an identity of interest. You got to sign that form, identity of interest. That's very, very important. You lie on that, you can be wearing a jumpsuit. You'll be in there with Meek Mill. Homeowner contractor agreement must be signed. This agreement is the kind of self-explanatory. Ultimately, it is the borrower who hires the contractor, and HUD does not certify. You hired them, hey, so you ain't suing the bank because you hired them. Okay, HUD consultant work write-up, WWU, and specification of work write-up, repairs, SOR. Most important piece to the puzzle, it's a guide for the appraisal. He's looking at what I wrote up and say, okay, fine, after we do all the stuff the HUD consultant wrote up, then the house will be worth that amount. HUD consultant opinion of repairs supersedes the contractor's opinion. No, we can do this for this. No, we can do this for this. No, I just said you can't. And we through talking about that. Unless you can fire me and go get the other HUD consultant, I ain't gonna tell you the name. But no, I ain't going to jail for you. So the HUD consultant supersedes any contractor's opinion and used in place of the contractor bid or scope of work. You can't turn the contractor's bid in with the scope of work and plan on closing. So having said all of that, that concludes my 203K spiel. And thank you guys, because I know it's hot outside, and thank you for showing up. I wrote this book for a variety of reasons, but I wrote the book so I can give you guys a roadmap of what works and what don't work. The book is a very good read, if I must say so myself. It's on all book platforms, and if you become a student, and the definition of student is the person who studies, this 203K will do phenomenal for your portfolio. And here's the thing, when you're doing your 203K, I'm gonna tell you something. Your little cousin is watching you. Your little brother is watching you. Your little nephew is watching you because you are their center of influence. And if you do this in the right way, guess what? You are the tip of the spear for generational wealth. Folks just watching what you do. Miss Russell back here, all of her kinfolk hang on to her every word. Mike Mensa back here, he got a conglomerate of people hang on to his every word. Miss Steele, she got people hanging on to her every word. You got to get out here and become centers of influence to show people the right way to go, and be a student. Now, having said that, we're going to throw this out for questioning. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to acknowledge folks. There's my mom in the audience. You know why my mom's here? Because if my mother had not bought these 2 dilapidated pieces of property, I wouldn't be your little handy contractor, your friendly neighborhood contractor. I was selling credit cards. And she said, baby, I got these little buildings here. And I'm like, Mama, you see my hands? I can't. I started with a crowbar and 2 skilled drills. And that was my first renovation because my mom couldn't find a contractor. And as a result of that, I became a contractor. And then this little guy right here, That's my son. And every time he seen me and Charlie working, he went the other way. There's Dano, he gone. He said, I don't want to be nowhere around those guys. So it's important to bring your family into this enterprise. It's very, very important. My sister-in-law back there in the back, hey, I need a contractor. I need to get this done. All right, I'll do it. You got to be that great center of influence for your family. Me and Mike working at Ameritech, and we sitting up there, and I say, we went to lunch, me, Mike, Shantae, Virgil, we just all went out to lunch, and I say, Mike, I'm out of here, man. I'm getting ready to go do some other stuff. And that's why I'm here being your contractor. For Ms. Starks in the back, who gave me an opportunity to be an educator, who, when I learned to be articulate, because I had all these minds I had to train, I had to become articulate. You guys got to be articulate as agents, as lenders, as handyman, as contractors. The more articulate you are, you keep down the confusion. So I want to thank you guys for being here to be part of my community that helped develop my skill set. And never forget, don't take yourself too serious, because you got to learn to laugh. I want to stand up. There's the Honorable Judge Steve Watkins in the house. Stand up, Mr. Watkins. Stand up, Mr. Freeman. These guys right here, every Saturday and Sunday, I'm laughing. Because these cats say the stuff out their mouth. We just go all over the United States just being silly, grown men. But that's my opportunity to laugh, to recharge my battery for the week to come. So that's my little cast of characters. In order for me to be successful, I got to have somebody I can laugh with. I got to have somebody I can grow with. The Dominiques of the world, the Miss Steels of the world, the Mr. Daniels of the world, the Mr. Youngs of the world. I got to have people I can grow with. So build your team for people you grow with. And while I have a moment, can somebody please bring me a book? Please? It's my brother. Okay. That's my brother Jairus. He just came back from his sabbatical from Africa, Sierra Leone. So he's that dude. So I want to just make a few remarks out of my book, if you guys don't mind. This book is dedicated to the memory of Charles Stewart. He was my best friend. He was my trainer, and he sparked a small movement of men. In his honor, I sincerely dedicate this book, and I miss him very much. That is my best friend, and I'm going to say a prayer for him tonight. First, giving thanks to God for his wisdom and strength. To God be the glory. I would like to thank my wife, Deborah, for the gift of my children, her relentless support and undying love, and her wit. You keep us all together. We love you. I would like to thank my mother, Queen Morgan. She sparked my construction interest. When she decided to become owner of 2 dilapidated buildings, she entrusted me with the rehab, and my career was born. And my mom, you did that. That she is. That's the queen. I'd like to thank my beautiful daughter, Kiana Jackson, who I don't see yet. She raised her dad. Can y'all believe that? My daughter raised me, because that was the most difficult kid I ever met in my life. But she taught me to be a good parent. And I think she did a good job of raising me. Her strength and perseverance are very phenomenal, and Daddy loves her so much. And her daughter is Kayla, my little grand queen, Kayla Jackson. She's my intern. She's also my DJ. I'd like to thank my son, Dan C. Morgan III. I believe the man and father you have become, my son is my hero. And he's done everything I've ever asked him to do. Done everything, except maybe paint that trim, except maybe hang that sheet of drywall. But this young man, against all odds, a little kid from the south side of Chicago, went to an environment to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and finished his degree on time in engineering. So I want y'all to give my son a hand. And then he's responsible for my 2 grand queens, Danny Reese and Taylor Ray. And if anybody knows me, they know those are my girls. Thank you to my brother and my sister, Leonard, Charlotte, Jairus, Victor, Kevin, and Stanley Morgan. I am the collection of you all, and I love you. I'd like to thank my Harper High School family of teaching professionals, Coach Carroll, Mr. Trice, Miss Austin, Mr. Whittier, Miss Pennell, Miss Brewer, Miss Fletcher, Mr. Olivier, Miss Jalot, Miss January, Mr. Harvey, Mr. Aline, and Miss Sanderson. I'd like to send a special thanks to Miss Kenyatta Starks. She's back there, right there in that corner, in that beautiful blue dress. This beautiful and exceptional woman put her complete trust and commitment into my becoming a teacher. And I told her, point me to a brick wall and you know I'll go through it for you. So thank you for believing in me, for trusting in me, and you definitely are my angel. So that's important. I'd like to thank the 2 women of West Cook, Miss Athena Williams and Miss Deborah Williams, Mr. Pete Meyer and Rena Sudmeyer. Pete Myers is the Bulls' assistant basketball coach. He taught me to play golf. And I'd like to thank the consistent and purposeful real estate professional that lend to the viability and the sustainability of Dan Morgan, Mr. Earl Bailey, Mr. Jared Greer, Miss Melinda Jordan, Miss Joy Munoz, Miss Siobhan Robinson, Kimothy Lee, and special thank you to the Queen of Real Estate, Miss Charlene Peaches. She's not here yet, but she's Charles's twin sister, who's my mentor, and I just had to give that to you. And Danny Morgan is the owner and operator of Danny Inspections. And again, I want to thank Mr. Bailey and Melanie, who I didn't do my first 203K with them, but I've done pretty much every other 203K after that. We kind of joined at the hip. Sometimes he misbehaves, sometimes not. Sometimes he talked back, sometimes not. But we always bouncing everything off of each other. And I'm going to say this to all the professionals in the room. Whether you're white, black, you're minority, or you're indifferent, there's a thing called a rope. And when you have a rope tied to a buoy, when somebody's drowning, you throw them that rope. When you have somebody stuck in a hole, you throw them a rope. And so when we are here in this real estate community, sometimes we all need lifting up. And there's Miss Peaches right there, Miss Peach Stewart right there. There she is. That's the queen of real estate right there. When I told her I was getting in this business, she said, come on, I got 2 inspections for you. I said, wait a minute, I ain't ready yet. She said, come on. But her and Charles are single-handedly responsible for my real estate career. So I want y'all to give it up to Miss Stewart. That's Peaches, to everybody knowing real estate business. But when you have an opportunity, and I see Lolita struggling as a real estate agent, I got to throw her a rope. When I'm a contractor and I see Upendo struggling, I got to throw him a rope. I see his fledgling business and he's trying to garner support through his social media page. I got to throw him a like. When I see the 2 ladies from Hammond building up their clientele, I got to throw them a rope. We so busy trying to outdo each other, nobody got a rope. Nobody got a rope. And just think, if we all had a rope and seeing one of our brothers struggling, it's going to be better for all of us. When there's enough money in the real estate business for everybody. We got to start pulling each other up. I wrote a book, and I was shocked and fascinated by the phenomenon. Nobody said a word. I'm just a little guy who spent 20-some years on drugs, picking up cigarette butts off the floor, and starting my life all back over again. Nobody threw me a rope but one person, 2 people, my mother and Charles Stewart. And when I got that rope, I ran with it. When I was struggling to find employment, Miss Butler at the time, Miss Starks now, she threw me a rope. She pulled me up. When I had nobody to golf with, the Royals, Steve Watkins, Mr. Walter Chili Freeman, they threw me a rope. Come on, we rolling. When I'm down in the pits, Mike Mensa, hey Dan, come on. He threw me a rope. So you'll never see me not throwing somebody a rope. Whenever you need my help, you just give me a call. And I got a rope in my back pocket, and we're gonna come up out that hole. I don't do the hole, I just don't. So I'm gonna give it to Mr. Bailey. We're gonna wrap this up in 2 minutes. It's time to eat. I want you guys to eat until your bellies are full, like you ain't eaten since 1999, and enjoy your meal. Enjoy the camaraderie. Enjoy talking with contractors, Mr. Smith, Mr. Young, Mr. Openda. Just talk to these people. Talk to Mr. Freeman about he's building a house right now. Tell him, ask him about what's going on. Talk to Dominique about real estate. Talk to the two ladies from Hammond. Talk to Mr. Russell. Talk to Mr. Mensa. It's a wealth of knowledge, and go get your rope, people. You don't got to do this by yourself. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming out. The people online, I want to thank you too. This is just something we were glad to do. We like to give people knowledge. We like to make sure that when you decide to do a 203K, anything else, that you can always come to us to get some advice. We'll be glad to answer any kind of questions you have at any time. And we want to make sure that when you do a 203K, it has the best chance of succeeding, and you know when to do it and when to not do it. So we hope you got a lot of knowledge here, and there's more knowledge to get. We hope you reach out to us anytime you do have a question. If me or Dan can't answer it, it's probably not something that can be answered. So thanks, and have a wonderful day. Stay cool.
Right. Last but not least, housekeeping. You cannot bring food inside the sanctuary, so we want to just guard against that. And what I need from you guys, this is my rope. Wrapping up, you guys go read the book, or if you don't read the book, give me a favorable review. Go to Amazon, give me a review. That lifts me up, okay? And with that, peace out.